Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Co-optional Podcast here on the 23rd of January 2018.
Yo, what's going on, kiddos?
What is indeed going on?
What is indeed going on
Yes,
this day?
Nothing of importance was talked about or announced this week in any way.
No.
Nah, not a thing.
No, nothing.
Not a thing. Just some half-baked sequel that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're referring to.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Oh no, this is
Nothing
not done yet.
Mm.
Not even close.
Yeah, it's not even over.
It's going to be months until it's done, so
Yeah.
why even bother talking about it?
And then
really?
honestly, like, you know, the launch version's gonna suck. A lot.
For sure. Like, it's going to be a few months before they patch in.
A few months. Wow. I mean, I think that's
Wait, we talking about God of War? Because that game be
a
fucking
little
awesome.
optimistic.
God of War is be fucking awesome. We talking about God of War?
Yes.
Whoa.
That's
that
exactly what we're talking
awesome.
about.
That game's gonna be fucking awesome.
Are you playing chat right now? What are they talking about?
What are they talking about? God of War? That game's be fucking awesome.
God of War?
Oh, fuck no. That game's be awesome. I'm ready.
Is
I
this
saw
a
that trailer
thing?
today and was like,
Ugh.
I'm ready.
Oh, okay.
I haven't seen it.
I haven't looked
It
at
is
it. I don't really
exactly
care.
everything that you've seen before. It's
Great.
literally just Dad of War being a dad.
Okay.
And then like the things that you probably wondered before, like, does the boy know he's a god? Like that kind of stuff. And then literally that's the question, like, does the boy know he's a god? Like that kind of shit. And you're like, oh, okay, they're gonna answer shit in this one. Cool.
Looks like they took everything I liked out of God of War and removed it, so I'm probably just not gonna bother.
Oh,
The
I
fucking
couldn't
how
agree.
slow the fucking
Had
combat
no
is.
one in his life and was an empty just hole
He's
of aggression.
A
and violence.
he's the god of war, Kratos, killer of all gods, slayer of all things, and you care about
And
his
then
relationship
he
with
just
his
old
fucking
man
son.
Logan and wanted to settle the
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah, fuck
Yeah.
that and everything about that. Thanks. Actually,
I am thrilled to see like Kratos v Norse mythology. I think it's gonna be awesome. I'm ready.
that
I'm
would
ready
be
for it.
fine if that's all it was, and from a proper perspective at a proper speed, not slow dad of war, weird over the shoulder combat bullshit, which is what
ready.
this is. It's like, hey, yeah, you know that was like one of the best weapons of all time, the Blades of Chaos. Let's replace that with a fucking woodsman's axe. I'm sure that'll be as interesting. Like, yeah, maybe not. Maybe
I
not.
don't know. It could be
Don't think so.
fantastical.
Yeah.
I did like
Fantastical.
the slapdick method of Kratos fighting in the other games, where it was just
Pretty
like
much.
a bunch of dudes coming for me.
Ah! Yeah, that is the
I
correct
love it.
way of doing God of War, frankly.
I was the laziest. There's no way I could possibly ever stream a God of War game because I was the laziest Kratos. Every passive I took and never learned any abilities, but I could like swing for like 12 million damage. But like, that's not entertaining. People would not want to watch that.
It's like people want to
I'm
watch
just like,
actual combos and abilities.
yeah, they want to see cool shit. I would never do that.
He's
I'd
hitting
be like,
X a lot. He's hitting a lot of
attack,
X
attack,
right
attack.
now. Yeah. It's okay. We have Bayonetta to carry the torch. It'll be fine. It won't be a problem. Our special guest today, Mr. LevelCapGaming. Welcome back to the show. It's been a while.
Hello. Thank you for having me back. Appreciate it.
Always welcome. FPS expert extraordinaire.
Yeah, I was just realizing
that,
as
anyway.
you guys were talking about God of War, I'm like, I don't play anything but FPSs.
I mean, you
God damn it.
basically just play a lot of first-person shooters, yeah.
I do
Which-
play Hearthstone though, so
Yeah.
that's like the first person shooter of card games.
Yeah, I mean, it is basically a first-person shooter. It's just you're loading a gun with money and just shooting it at the screen in order to
Yeah,
win. So
gross.
it's,
I used to do it with Magic the
Roasted.
Gathering. Now I'm doing it with Hearthstone.
Yep.
You know? Long as there's a trading card game. Well, this isn't even a trading card game.
No,
As long
because
as
you don't
there's
get
a
to
card
trade
game
it.
out there.
You get no fucking value out of it. That's the problem. That's why
Oh my god.
I'm just a sucker. I'm sitting on thousands of dollars worth of useless Hearthstone cards that I can't even fucking run on
You
ladder
can't
anymore.
trade that golden
Can't trade
Ragnaros
it.
to anybody.
Yeah,
Can we?
can't do shit.
Speaking of Blizz, because someone in
Yes.
chat brought it up, and
Don't let
I'm
chat
hoping everyone has
dictate
an
your
opinion.
points of view.
Overwatch League, because that's like
Oh,
FPS.
fuck there now. All right, okay.
Overwatch League.
The owl. Yes.
The owl, if you will. Yes.
The owl. I am thrilled that it's getting like the response it's getting. I have said this before. I'm gonna say it again. I may just be too old for Overwatch to watch visually.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. Because I can't
Because,
fucking watch
like,
it either.
Every time when they do like overviews and they show like a character like Widowmaker, I'm like, all right, cool, I get this. This is pretty. I like seeing the twitch of like the gun going. But when they're like, and now we go to a Genji or literally a Tracer or any other fast character, the screen's like, I can't. I'm out. I'm done. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you've completely lost me.
I have a couple of friends who have been like watching it a ton, and they claim that the spectator version is better since the league has started.
I can't tell the difference.
I
I can't tell at all.
I went down to Turner Broadcasting and watched their initial thing that they did, the E-League TBS studio. And if it is better, the only difference that I've seen that has made it better is that they slightly changed the color palette. So it was clearer who was on what team. That was
Right,
about
yes,
it.
They did do that.
Like, I know there have been claims of like, oh, well, it's completely different now. They've magically fixed everything. They fucking have not at all. And I've tried time and again now to watch it. I've given it the chances. And no, and you're right. I mean, even with like, watching through Widowmaker scope, at least you can see what's going on. But the thing is, like, I don't find it interesting watching people sniping with Widowmaker because it's not very hard. Like, if I watch someone pull off some really impressive shit with an AWP in CSGO, that's cool. But watching people do that with Widowmaker, who is a much inherently easier character to snipe with, it's just a much easier gun to use, isn't impressive or that fun. So I'm not into it. I'm not. I'm glad that other people are. I'm glad it's doing
Same.
pretty well. Because as we mentioned, if this did really badly, that's really bad for everybody, esports-wise.
And apparently, going to the arena is super fun. Like, it's
I have
really
no
I've seen
doubt
the
that
arena.
like
The
the
arena's
live
cool.
experience
There.
is super entertaining
it's
and
really
being around
close
fans.
to us, dude.
Yeah, I don't ever doubt that. My biggest thing, like, since the beginning, I've always pointed out problems with it. And I remember at BlizzCon 2 years ago, I was like, look, when they played, I couldn't tell which team was which. And the first major thing they did was be like, yeah, so every team has colors, and this is what the teams look like. That's great. I love all the changes they're making. Good on them for doing it and like making it easy for people to watch. But at the end of the day, until there's like a swooping camera, like we can follow, until they really delve in and make it like
even
actually
then,
watchable.
Even then,
then-
I mean, competing with like something like CSGO, which is so clean and easy to watch. And it's always, well, actually, it's a lie. It used to be terrible to watch. It took them years to get.
It's so slow moving. So that's why you can actually watch CSGO. And the
Yeah.
strategies are so kind of like straightforward once you understand some of the basics. You're sort of
Yeah.
like, okay, he's going to peek for there. He's going to try and shoot that guy. Overwatch is like these teams flying at 100 miles an hour against each other nonstop, So
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah,
follow that.
and
they've
it's
set
the
themselves up
non-stop
for a
part as
very
well, isn't it?
difficult situation.
With
I think they've done okay with making it watchable, but you almost certainly have to be somebody who's played the game a decent amount to like really sort of be able to sit there and understand it,
Yeah, it's just that even then, at the there are just some characters that teams need to have because they're like top tier, they're amazing characters. Like if you have a next level Genji, you're gonna start winning some shit like crazy. But then they're like, and now let's go to the Genji player. And his screen is great for him because he sees the code of the Matrix. But like if you're a normal person watching, it's like and you have no fucking clue what's happening. And it's fascinating to watch, but it's like this does not make good watching.
I am
I kind
definitely.
of like it, to be honest. I like it because you're sort of
Man, we're different people. That we're totally different.
I like it
crazy.
because you're seeing the level at which like the best players in the world are playing it. Because if you see them from a third-person camera, you don't quite understand the difficulty of the accuracy or the speed of their movements. And so once you actually start seeing, it's like when you're watching pro Counter-Strike or pro StarCraft, and you start seeing the guys
Literally what I
selecting
was
stuff
gonna
just
say.
flying around the screen, and you're like, I can't even begin to understand.
Right,
how
but then they can cut back. They can literally be like, "Look at this guy's amazing." Cut back, and you see the overworld map, and then they just show like the pictures of the players, and they're just like, and it looks amazing, and you still get the overall view of what's happening. Overwatch, I don't think has that yet, and until they have that sort of like real solid.
I would disagree that when you're a first-time StarCraft viewer, you know what the fuck is going on ever.
I'm not saying you know what's going on, but you can
don't.
like see.
It's still dynamic. It's still exciting to watch.
It helps
but
because
you
of the
won't
perspective.
Understand anything that's going on?
No.
You're just like, I think eventually some of that stuff is gonna hit some of that stuff, and then I'll see things explode. Like that's what you're kind of waiting for.
But it's more like a game of football Americans, or like any game where you can see progress happen. Like if you go back on a StarCraft map, you can see the colors shifting and moving. You're like, oh, so that player is winning because that player has more of X, Y, and Z.
There's a lot of red over here on the map, and there's not a lot of blue, so you can kind of figure out, okay, the blue's maybe not doing so well. I would say with StarCraft, the perspective helps. It's much easier to see from the top down, but you need the commentators, especially if you're new to StarCraft. It helps that we have really fucking good commentators.
In high-level play, it doesn't, I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Like somebody having spread to more places doesn't mean that they're gonna win.
No, it doesn't. No, not necessarily.
The thing with Overwatch is that it has that where it's like, oh, we took B, or you can see us pushing the payload somewhere. They has that, but in between those moments are the moments of like insanity, which, unless handled properly, can be very confusing. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's like there's moments where you can be like, what the fuck just happened? And unless you're right, unless you have really, really good hosts, which thankfully Overwatch does, to explain what the hell's going on, it's tough. There's a lot. They've got a long way to go, but so far I'm thrilled that people are into it, because the more people into it, the better it is for all esports. So like,
yeah, because if it collapses flat on its face, then it sets esports back 10 fucking years, and we'll lose massive sponsorship and investment.
The amount of money invested.
There's too much money in it for it to fail. Like it literally is too big to fail, and would have massive consequences if it did. You know, but that doesn't make it a good esports viewing experience for me. And I've tried time and time and time and fuck again. Anyone that wants to claim otherwise is like, well, I'm sorry, I've been a fucking professional esports commentator for 8 fucking years, and I still can't tell what the fuck is going on in that game. So, if you can, good for you, seal clap, great. I don't like watching it. FPS wise, I will watch CS:GO over that 10 times out of 10, and I'll watch Rainbow Six Siege 9 times out of 10 over Overwatch, without question. They're both much better spectator FPS that are much better paced. You know, they've got some actual downtime, so you have time to collect your thoughts and figure out what's going on. They've got good pacing. The explosions of action followed by the relative quiet is good. You know, that's the kind of pacing that you need in a game like that.
I'm going to give all the credit in the world to Soda Savvy for literally putting what I think into better words. I'm just going to repeat it. Is it the case of other games being easier to see because A leads to B than to C, but with Overwatch, you can jump into perspective and find yourself over at E without any sequence of events? That's exactly how I feel. The idea that like you can follow it until suddenly they cut you to some place and you're like, wait, what? Where am I now? What's happening? And you
I mean, that's part of it, definitely. You know, because you do have those very large maps, but simultaneously, it's just also about the fact that you're looking at characters that do not do obvious things. Like, if you have a sniper rifle in CS:GO, anybody can understand what that thing is going to do and what its role is. If I tune in and here's Winston bouncing about all over the place, and I don't know, does he have what is that? Is it a taser, I think, and blah blah, and something's happening, and ultis are flying off all over the place. It's a team fight. I think somebody won. Based on the kill feed, it looks like somebody won. Okay, cool. You know, it's the same problem that Dota and League have had, except it's from a first-person perspective, therefore even more fucking confusing.
Right.
Do you think that in terms of having a progressional map in the same way, that there should be, and maybe this already exists, just like I haven't been watching Owl, but having some kind of a way for on payload maps, like something that they can go to that shows like, here's where we started. We've made it all the way to here, and here's the end.
I assume they have. I'm pretty sure they have that.
Do they?
I can't remember.
I don't think I've ever
honestly.
seen that while playing the game. So,
But yeah, like any additional visuals or anything they can do to show players, instead of just like a bar at the top, it's like they're halfway there, like a map that's like they've gone this way and they're this way, and like this is a choke. If they can John Madden the shit out of a map and be like, here's the choke points, and then go here,
holy
they can.
shit, I want to be the John Madden of Overwatch.
Wouldn't that be incredible? Just be like, they've got to push through here. They got to dive deep. These men have got to get in there and push. And that would be incredible. I would love stuff like that. If they had one guy who was the John Madden of Overwatch.
The question is, when do you get the time to do that? Like, because if you think about the way American football works, you've got a lot of stoppages when you have time to do that telecasting stuff. This game it just keeps going. Like there's barely ever a break outside of a complete team wipe.
Strike too, and even you could argue with StarCraft as well, because there's battles in StarCraft, and then there's sort of economy periods.
Yeah, and it's like,
the commentators can talk about the strategy and build up to the next big battle. Counter-Strike, you got your rounds, you got your downtime to talk about it. Overwatch is like start to finish. I mean, they do switch sides and whatnot, but each round lasts a while. I can't remember how long it lasted.
Yeah. And then they have the time too, right? So there's like, if they complete in a certain amount of time, then now they're 3 minutes and 8 minutes and 2 minutes and whatever. So I mean, you could do it in between there and be like, last round they got stuck here, so I got to go through there. Like, there's
which they do, and they definitely do that. You know, they do that in between matches, though. Like not and in between. They can't really necessarily do that while a round is going on, because again, outside of a full team wipe, there's no real downtime. It's just that game just keeps going forever until the round ends.
Right. I'm saying
like
instead of the
time.
the single camera shot on the commentators, or like the cut to the one and it's the one instead of just showing them and them explaining something, give us all the visuals you can. Give us like whiteboards and just throw visual things. It will, trust me, it can only help. It'll make things so much easier for players and fans to just be like, oh, okay, I see what this pro level player is thinking and doing. Anything to help. That's all I'm saying. The more, the better.
Yeah. I still don't like it. I don't have any intention of watching it.
I'm glad that it is doing well, though.
Don't help, because you're trying to learn the characters, right? Especially if you haven't played it in a bit. And there's quite a few to choose from now, and then they all have different costumes and stuff. So you're like, wait, is that the same guy or no? I don't understand.
Yeah.
There is a bit of visual complexity there, and I think it does make it hard for people who just aren't familiar with the game to get into. But maybe that's not as important nowadays, because it's like League of Legends is huge, and I turn that on and I have no idea what's happening.
Same.
Well, I mean, I have to wonder how many people that don't play Overwatch are tuning into OWL, because I'm going to go with none. I mean, I would think that everybody that's tuning into OWL is probably still an active player, or at least played recently.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be very surprised if there was a significant base of people that don't play Overwatch that watch that.
I think that there are a lot of people who wind up watching the games that they're told are good.
Oh, yeah, that might be true. I mean, certainly there's been a lot of clip sharing. There's been like millions of views.
I know that
maybe to see the highlights.
For us and some of our friends, it's been like we have the one guy who watches every match, right? And he will text us and be like, you got to watch this game. That game is really, really good. It's really fun to watch, right? And then everybody will go and watch just that one.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there are a lot of eyeballs on it just overall, but intermittently. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Especially with them trying to do kind of this, general sports type schedule where it's on multiple days of the week. Like a lot of people just can't sit and watch all of it.
No,
but I think that
it's a
comes
lot
down
of
to
time.
The growing fandom and then picking your team. And once people have their team, then I think like that's going to be the problem I have is that because it's an esport and because it doesn't have that natural growth of like you go to the stadium in your city, a lot of the like, I'm from London, so I support my London team. I don't think that's going to happen.
That is all Korean.
Yeah,
I support London Spitfire. There's a lot of Parks and Moons in it, inexplicably, but yeah. It's like, my name is Gavin Sunmoo Park. Oh, like, no, No, that's
of the London Spitfire. But I feel like the problem then becomes you're going to have people who gravitate to the top like 5 teams, let's say, and after that, who are the fans of the other teams? So I think it's kind of sad because then like no one really cares about their success. I mean, even shitty teams in every other sport still have a huge fan base because they're like, that's my team. And one day we're going to make it. God
well, yeah, I mean,
it.
that's why they pushed the regional franchising as much as they did.
And which I think, I don't know if that's going to work with like the bottom 4 teams of an esport, right?
No, I think it will, but you know,
something that might help is that much like with Smash, right? Like there are still tons of people that watch Smash. But one of the reasons is because stories always wind up just kind of happening with it, right? There's like kids from who fucking knows where that pop out of the woodwork and just crush all of the pros. And you're like, I have to know what happens, right? That kind of a story. And there have been a few upsets of you know, thinking, oh, this team is going to be garbage. They've never even played together before, right? And then they win, like that kind of stuff. If that sort of a thing continues to happen, I don't think that people are necessarily going to care whether or not, like, it hasn't been around for long enough. Like you were saying, it hasn't been around for long enough for people to really attach to a team.
I hope what is happening right now, because I think there may not be enough time for someone to be attached to a team, but I think there's enough time for people to start hating a team. And I feel like we already have our Patriots of Overwatch League, that Soul team. People are already starting to get salty about them. So like, I'm okay with that. It's good to have a team that you hate. Everyone has to be a Yankees or a Patriots. Why is it always the Northeast? Bastards up there. I can't say that. They'll come get me. I love you, Northeast. I used to live there. You're great people. Go Steelers. Single tier.
Well, yeah, of course there's going to be the salt of that because the Koreans are going to win. Because they always win.
But I think that's good. It's good because if you're a fan of any of the LA teams, any of the teams that like are close but just keep getting shit on by the Korean team, it's like, all right.
There's an underdog story. Yeah, I mean, we have that all the time in StarCraft as well. Like, we've had this for years where we get this foreign hope that invariably fails, except for the one time where we didn't. You know, right. And that actually generates a lot of viewership interest. Viewership always goes up during foreigner versus Korean matches if there's a foreigner on a hot streak, and it'll go down when that foreigner gets knocked out. And you'll probably get that kind of effect, I would imagine, in Overwatch League as well. Alternatively, what the franchises will do is, after realizing that Koreans own white dudes, they'll just fire all the white dudes and replace them with Koreans, and then the entire league will be full of those, just like London Spitfire. So, you know, that's also a possibility.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know that it affects too much, but I think the perception of the league being like it's hometown based and I feel like that makes it a little awkward to be like, yes, we're definitely your Houston team. Now meet our Korean players. I was gonna say, awkward.
Like, I for London Spitfire, I'm like, right, in order for you to be allowed on the London team, you have to have eaten fish and chips at least once and have to have actually visited London at some point in your life. And I know none of you have, so don't even pretend. There is an aspect of that which is the London one especially, because in real sports you do have players from other countries come in. Definitely, a lot of them have limits on how many can come from countries outside of where the native team is. Not all sports do, but quite a lot do. But it is a problem if you fill the whole team with players that aren't from that country and then try and push the regional aspect as a reason why you should support, because then that is forced. That doesn't work at that point.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I have nothing at all against being like, I want the best players on my team, and if the best players are Korean, great. It's just one of those things that perception wise, this is my hometown, and this is where we're the Houston team, or we're the New York team, we're the LA team. So then you've got to have that perception actually work. Yeah. And I feel like league-wise, eventually, if every team is just like the best Asians they can find, then it just looks weird. It doesn't make it bad. It just seems like a little off. You're like, because that's every other.
Well, if you're relying
if
you're relying on that for support, but people can see right through that as a facade because these people aren't from that hometown or even from that home country. then no, that you won't get that groundswell of regional support. And you can complain about nationalism or whatever all you fucking like, but it's sports. It's sports. That's a huge, huge component of why people support athletes and why people support sports teams, is that level of nationalism, even down to a local town level, for fuck's sake. You know, goes down all the way to your local village football team. It's a big deal. So yeah, I do hope they sort that out.
It negates the idea of what Overwatch League was supposed to be, right? Because then it just becomes every other esport. So why make Overwatch League if you're like, because at that point, every other esport's like, get the best players we can for our team that is sort of like an amorphous, we exist on the internet team. This is supposed to be like your hometown team. So what's the point if it's just like every other esports team? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. You're muted, by the way. Dodger.
Dukes.
We're not being rude. You're just muted.
It's also supposed to support like kind of the idea of Overwatch, right? Which is like a lot of different people from different places doing amazing things. Yeah. And so if a lot of different people from different places like aren't even involved, even though the place they come from is involved, it feels weird.
There's a lot of different people from different areas of Seoul, Korea. I'll have you know. You know, it's a big city.
Yeah, people are saying that people were training
just
USA
superior
for
to
the
everyone else in the
Dallas
world.
team, and nobody on the team was even from the US, except for one player who was benched or something during that game. So
yeah,
that's a little weird.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll eventually put a limit on, like a lot of other sports do, where it's like, yeah, you can have a couple of players from outside of this region, but otherwise they have to at least come from the same continent. You know, I don't know. But with Overwatch, maybe that's not feasible at the moment. But we'll see. You know, maybe it does get to the point where it is irrelevant. You know, I do hope that people can support players based on how good they are and based on how well they play as opposed to where they're from. But I wasn't the one that pushed the fucking hometown franchise aspect. Owl was. So that's on them. You know, if they're going to push that, then the consequences of that are firmly on their shoulders.
Well, and also you lose the homegrown aspect when you put all that money in it, because it's people growing teams, right? And they want to win for the notoriety of it. So you don't like get this team that started up with like a bunch of friends playing League of Legends or whatever together. And then
you don't get that story.
Championships, you have none of that anymore. It's just like, nope, we looked at the stats and these 4 guys from Korea were amazing. So we brought them over, you know, and you're like, okay, well, that's
and they're going to represent Malala, Oregon.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's got to be like
the rain. All right.
I wonder if there's got to be divisions below that would actually create those
like
stories. Yeah, so minor leagues that are still supported. I don't know to what extent the minor league system works with Overwatch. I honestly don't know enough about it. But if they had a sort of official one that did that, then that would be pretty good.
I love there was a AA Overwatch League, a AA OWL, and like you had really janky teams. Like we can make the co-optional curmudgeons, and it'd just be like a bunch of like people who really want to be in the Overwatch League. But you know what? Jim Bob Slam Jam is his name.
Oh my God.
He's a good guy, but he just can't make it.
We've ever had on the show.
Jim Bob Slam Jam. It's a weird name, but he's a good player.
He's
and
great.
you know what? One day he'll make it. And if not, he had a good career in the AA's. We can do that. I think it can happen.
Yeah. Still don't mean I'm going to watch it, but there you go. just want to remind people of that. Terrible game to watch, but whatever. What about games we've been playing though?
Can I be honest?
You can
only been playing Slay the Spire.
Yeah, a lot of people have been doing that.
I don't know if they keep adding cards or if there's just cards that I'm still stumbling on and being like, I've never seen this
you
card
unlock new cards per run, and they're probably putting cards in
it's
early
not
access
per run,
wise.
it's per like
it's per kind of character level. Yeah. But if you're doing proper runs, you should be getting character levels from that. Unless you shit.
I got the furthest that I had ever gotten with a character. And when I got out, I only got like this much experience. And I was like, what happened?
How far did you get? Like a quarter way up the first level? What?
No, I hit the second boss, and I still haven't beaten the second boss, just full disclosure.
It's pretty hard. I
hit the second boss, and I only got like this much experience. It's on stream. I only got like this much experience. I was like, what the fuck? Come on, give me a
Yeah, apparently they're adding a couple of cards in every week, which is that's a good way to do things. That's a good way to do early access. I like that. Yeah, that game is very, very good.
There's some fucking crazy shit you can do. I'm starting to like the bashy first character a lot more than I used to. I've been trying out, like builds where it's all cards that hurt him but give me energy. And that stuff's been really fun, but like if you don't do it right, you die really fast.
Yeah.
So that sort of stuff is really, really fun. Yeah, it's a really good game so far.
For those who don't know, it's a dungeon crawler whereby the way that you crawl through the dungeon is a deck building setup. So you start off with a really shitty deck of really kind of shitty skills. You try and get better cards, more cards. You try and create combinations of cards that work well together. Where possible, you try and get rid of cards that are maybe not so good, although you don't have many opportunities to do that. And you can also upgrade your cards as well. So even if you're stuck with a bunch of cards that are maybe not so good, you could upgrade them, and now they're not quite so shitty anymore. So that's fine. And you're then also able to collect just a massive line of relics of just all sorts of different things that give you a bunch of buffs and debuffs and weird effects and all sorts of crazy shit like that. It is legit great if you like dungeon crawlers and card games, of which I love both.
Yeah, I honestly feel like the only thing that's sort of divisive in this game is the aesthetic.
Oh, it's hideous.
I'm not a huge fan of how it looks, but I'm fine with how it looks. That's
how I get most of my days. I'm not a huge fan of how it looks, but I'm fine with it.
It's like, does it actively put you off playing the game? No. Is it anything to write home about? No.
Fantastic.
But that's a good sign, though. You're not
it is
for the amazing visuals and whatnot. It's actually got good core gameplay.
Yeah, if you can get past that, which is actually, that was a problem for me initially. I'd heard about Slay the Spire like 3 or 4 months ago, and I think I'd stumbled across it on Steam, taken one look at the screenshot, and it's like, that looks like it was on Newgrounds 10 years ago, like, and then ignored it on that basis, and then only came back around to playing it later. It is very, very good, though, to the point where I am very annoyed that it's not on iPad, so I can just play it forever.
They've announced that it's going to be on mobile.
I have no doubt it will be, but I want it now. just
chill,
Veruca.
TV.
No,
calm down, Veruca.
I just want to play 3 hours of it now on mobile. I can, technically. I could stream through Moonlight from my PC, but that's going a little far to play a fucking card game, I have to say. But it's a hell of a card game, though. It's very good. It's got almost no story of any description. It's aesthetically not pleasing in any way, but it's awesome regardless of those things.
Is so good that I don't even
exactly
care.
Everything else is so good it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Time out.
Yes.
TB, do you say I want it now so much that you have a Veruca salt emote in your chat?
I've had that for like a year. I've got a Veruca salt.
I know
you
do, but it never hit me that like the two of them crossed over to the point where like, how often are you just dancing about being like, I want the whole world? Is that your day?
That's me 100% of the time, actually.
I mean, isn't there an entire co-optional animated where I sing that song?
I mean, that's where we stole the emote
from. Come up before.
Yeah,
but it's like a wave. When it comes back and washes over you, when the tide comes in again, you're like, I can't believe this is really a thing. Yeah, you're just like,
that is the thing that happened.
Fantastic.
Yeah, need to play more of that. Lots more of that. Game is getting quite the following on Twitch, which is interesting because I wouldn't rate it as a game that's that interesting to watch.
I agree. It's very fun to play, but I have
There's no multiplayer,
no. Watch other people play it.
Okay.
No, it's entirely a single player sort of dungeon run. Like, you can understand why someone would watch someone play like Binding of Isaac or Enter the Gungeon or whatever, but with this, I mean, it is watching someone sit there throwing cards at some really badly drawn monsters, which apparently is good enough for most. I don't know, maybe it's just because we're doing the rounds of big streamers right now, and that's why I was seeing it up there. But
honestly, what I think it is is people. It's backseat bait.
Oh, you think there's a lot of backseating with it, right? Yeah, you
I
might
think
be
that
right.
People like
Yeah.
watching it because they know what a good build is, and they like
Right.
watching somebody and being like, "Oh man, they better take this fucking card because that's the best card in that." Oh, they didn't take it.
You
What the
remember
fuck?
that guy when we were at DragonCon? That guy that tried to backseat us when we were playing Dominion and tried to do it
Yeah.
in real life.
Oh my god.
That was good. That was
Yeah.
some good shit.
That was a real moment. That was a
Yeah,
real life.
He told me not to take this card, and I'm just like, I paused for a second and then just slowly took the card and just continued playing. Like, I didn't speak to the guy, and he eventually wandered off as a result. But I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this guy wasn't part of our game. Like, he actually walked up to us and tried to backseat us while we were playing a game of Dominion, which apparently is a big problem with Dominion. And I'm kind of glad that Dominion doesn't have a good online client, because I think if it did, it would be the most insufferable Twitch game that fucking exists. The level of backseat optimization play in the chat would be catastrophically high. God, that would be bad.
Oh, I've had the vampire event a few times now.
It's good. It's good. Yeah.
It is good. Yeah, it's an interesting mix up for sure.
Yeah, it does
there
make
are
the game
so
tricky.
many ways you can fuck up your deck. Like there's so many ways that you could be like, all right, my deck has really good synergy right now, and then do one thing. Just ruin it.
Just fuck it up. Yeah. And there's not many ways to fix it, because you don't get that many opportunities to trash a card.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still brilliant though. It's fantastic. Do get past the fact that it's hideous. Trust me. It is a great game, regardless of that. There was something I wanted to ask you about Level Cap, because I've not had the chance to play this damn thing yet, despite really wanting to, and that's Battalion 1944. The beta for that, I believe, just came out, and you have had a chance to play it.
2016, February 2016.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
It's been interesting because I think there's been a little controversy around it, because I think the initial Kickstarter was misleading, because it was a game largely inspired by Call of Duty 2 and COD Pro Mod. And so taking the COD 2 World War II theme and using that as a multiplayer only, quick scoping, fast paced, high skill shooter confused people, I think, especially if you didn't understand the inspiration, which it wasn't exactly clear initially. So people were expecting like storming Omaha Beach or something, and it's like, no, there's not going to be any sort of objective style gameplay like that. It's just going to be like domination, CTF, and then their competitive mode, which is kind of like I think it's sort of a kill confirm / something else. It's basically just 5 guys kill 5 other guys, with some light objective play mixed into it. The feeling of the game is really good, I have to say. It feels like if you've ever played a lot of OG Call of Duty, and you enjoyed the multiplayer and the quick scoping and the reaction time and the accuracy of it, then you'll probably enjoy it. It's a beta, so there's little things that I could nitpick on it here with the weapon balance and whatnot, but it is a beta at the end of the day. I'm kind of like confused, I think, because or not confused, but I'm curious to see what happens with it, because it very much for me reminds me of the Lawbreakers effect, where it's like old school devs and old school gamers are like, man, our games are too bloated. We got too much kill streaks and too much crazy stuff and points going up on your screen all the time. And these modern shooters, we've forgotten where we came from. We've forgotten where all the skill was. And like, these were the golden era of shooting. And so Lawbreakers came around, and I actually really liked Lawbreakers because it innovated what the arena shooter was, because I was like, you can't just keep remaking the old arena shooters, because if they're that good, people would still play them competitively.
Fucking exactly.
Yeah.
God, it's when people complain about goddamn Quake Champions, like, oh well, there's an ability for character now, so it's not Quake anymore. It's like, what do you want them to do? Because Quake Live already fucking exists and nobody plays it. So what did you want them to do?
Counter-Strike is a perfect example of a game that had its purity and just kind of kept updating the client so that it still fit within modern terms, but didn't really change the format of the game. And that's still popular. But if people still wanted to play these classic arena shooters in the same popularity, that we would expect they'd still be doing it because the
Yes.
games exist. They're there
They
for
do.
everybody. So my concern with this is that it's basically like COD World War II could make this game by removing features.
Yeah,
They
that's
could
true.
strip
Yeah.
it down and make it by removing features. And although the old COD games aren't really that well supported, it's not innovating in any way. Like Lawbreakers failed, but at least it tried to innovate. This isn't
Right.
adding anything to the franchise, and that's what I'm a little concerned about, because all it is kind of recapturing the glory days of one era of gaming. And I think a lot of pro shooters are really excited about it, but that isn't enough to make
No,
a game
it's not.
successful.
No.
So
Will
you've
you
got
have
a lot of
enough
people
players?
defending it to the death? You've got these pro guys like, no, the skill's perfect, the balance is perfect, like it's going to be really good, like this is what I've been waiting for forever. And it's like, I can't help but feel that there's a huge vocal minority saying this is going to be the next whatever. And I'm like, I'm already kind of bored of it. I enjoyed playing the games back then. I don't know if I'm the target demographic for it, but I feel
If
like
you're
I
not the
need
target
a little...
demographic, who the fuck is at this point? As a guy that only plays FPS pretty much.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think you'll find a lot of people defending it to the death, but it's not going to be fun to watch, I don't think. We'll see. Like I enjoyed it for the time I played, but I really couldn't play for more than a few hours before I'm like, okay, that's enough. But then again, it's beta. It's only 3 maps right now. I don't know how much more they're planning on expanding the base game mode.
Yeah. I look at it and I see the exact opposite of what I want. Like with Call of Duty World War II, the best thing about that game to me is the war mode, which is the objective-based push forward, try and do the objectives in a certain amount of time while the other side tries to stop you, and then flip sides kind of thing.
And that's not in this.
No, it's the opposite of that. You're
It's
taking a lot of that
CTF and
away,
domination,
really. Yeah.
Verbatim from every CTF and domination you've ever played.
Because I want those modes to be more interesting. Like, I think we're at a point where we need more interesting game modes in first-person shooters, not less.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of sick of games that are running the same game modes.
More interesting, do you mean more modes or more interesting
More
modes?
interesting modes, more complex modes.
Yeah, I agree.
We go back and look at Battleborn, even though it was obviously a complete fucking flop. Like, if you look at the game modes in Battleborn, they were interesting, and they had unique features that hadn't been done in other games before, and they had a degree of complexity to them, and there were decisions that you had to make in them, and that was cool.
Yeah, that game had so many ideas that I still think that that's a really sad situation.
Pissed.
Too.
Yeah, I mean, Lawbreakers pissed me off, I think, even less than Battleborn did, because I think Lawbreakers deserved more than it got, but Battleborn had some really cool original shit in it and managed to die for a wide variety of reasons, many of which were the fault of the devs. There's no question about that. But it's like, damn, if that game had come out at a different time and maybe it had been made by a different studio, I wonder what would have happened with it. It's kind of like the Battlerite effect. Like, before Battlerite, they made Bloodline Champions, which was a massive fucking flop, all right? And then they make almost the same game again a few years later in a different market with different things going on, like, say, Twitch being a thing and competitive gaming being in a very different place, and then suddenly Battlerite takes off in a big way. And I have to wonder if, I think there's probably quite a lot of it, a lot of Battleborn's absolute fucking failure comes down to that. Same with, like, Monday Night Combat and Super Monday Night Combat. Those were fucking awesome games as well that fell flat on their face. Maybe they came out at the wrong time as well.
Yeah. I think in the shooter market now, especially since Battalion 1944 is pushing the competitive scene so heavily, like their Kickstarter was talking about competitive, basically. Right. And I'm always wary of a game that's like trying to push that as the forefront.
Yeah, because you need a big player base for that.
Yeah, you need a player base, and the player base has to enjoy the basic game before you can be like, all right, esports, and all that stuff. But they're not innovating in any way. They're just going back and saying, here's a really nice refined version of like competitive COD or pro.
What you were able to do 10 years ago, let's hope there's still an audience for that, which there may very well not be.
And then I remember when they released the first in-game footage beyond the Kickstarter video, it showed like they have pro gamers on their team, you know, helping them balance and stuff.
Yeah,
so
of
they
course,
show
yeah.
footage from these pro gamers bouncing off of objects and jumping over stuff and quick scoping, headshotting people as they're flying through the air. And I remember like getting all these messages on Skype from different people like, what the heck is this game? Like, I crowdfunded a Battalion 1944 that looked like it was going to be objective oriented, like World War II battle scenarios. And
well, you want to be playing Day of Infamy
and,
then, because that's the game.
Yeah,
does
I
that.
rewatched the Kickstarter, and technically they don't say that it's going to be that kind of game, but based on the footage you see, you're like, here's some Germans in the forest charging a trench or something, or a pillbox.
So you get that impression.
Like, yeah, and so it confused a lot of people initially, and I don't know if this was just an accidental thing on the initial Kickstarter video where they didn't understand what they were showing or whatnot, but I think there was a lot of confusion, and we'll have to see how that kind of transforms once people start actually playing the game.
Right.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if it's got legs. You know, it looks pretty slick, but I don't know if I'd play a lot of it. I don't think it would keep my interest.
Yeah. It's just, there's nothing I can say about the game. Like, and then there's this cool thing or this really interesting new way that
well, but I mean, if it deliberately went out of its way not to innovate, then no. I mean, I guess you couldn't say that. You know, it's went out of its way to be like something else from 10 years ago, and then hope that that audience is still very much there.
And it's hard too, because I feel slightly hypocritical in that I'm constantly arguing against game bloating, which is devs piling on all this extra crap that you don't need in a good shooter. You know, like here's Behemoths in Battlefield 1. Man, do they sell copies, but the gameplay mechanics are terrible.
Oh yeah, they're horrendous. So, you mean you don't like being blown up by something half a mile away with a giant fucking cannon from
over
nowhere?
and over again, or like 2 seconds after you spawn in to see that you've been artillery struck by something across the map?
Yeah, that's really entertaining. I mean, I love the respawn screen. I really do, like in a sexual manner, actually. So, you know, I'm really into that.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard about you.
Yeah. It's a useful fetish to have for someone that's bad at games. Just really, really like the respawn screen.
Really
great background music too, you know, you can just put it on.
Always good to have a bit of mood in the background. Yeah,
so it's hard. It's like, I don't like game bloating, but then if you're going back to a state of purism for shooters, it's sort of like you got to have something to attract players to it. And I know the pro players are super interested in it, but I don't know if anybody else is. So
like where is that purism? Like, where is that audience? And they're probably still in CSGO. Like, you would think like that's where most of them are, right? And they're not going anywhere else.
Because that CSGO is already kind of dominating that tactical 5v5 shooter market.
Yeah, I mean, although Rainbow Six is doing really well.
Rainbow Six innovated the shit out of competitive shooters.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
Something which I was like, okay, so let's see. Battlefield Bad Company 2 had awesome destruction, and they never got on the esports scene. And everybody was like screaming at them, make a competitive shooter with destruction. And then Rainbow Six is like, hey, here's a competitive shooter with destruction and cool class-based combat. And now Battlefield's trying to do incursions, which, you know, has destruction, but it's not integrated to the gameplay as a central theme.
No, and it won't be as well balanced. I mean, you know, there's years of work behind fixing Rainbow Six Siege, which, let's be honest, came out as a mess, but it's a hell of a lot better now.
It's still a little bit of a mess.
Yeah, it's still got problems.
It's got a strong player base, though.
It's been going up and up and up.
Yep. It's been a very impressive comeback story for them, for sure.
Yeah, it's good.
Because it came out and people thought it was going to die, you know, because they're like, ooh, there's so many problems with this. But the concept behind it was so strong, and so many people were like, this is the game I've been wanting for years, just fix it. And they did. Well, you know, 99%.
And the Division is now starting to get a bit of that treatment as well. And I wonder,
coming back?
Yeah, the player count is starting to climb again, and a lot of positive feedback about the latest update. People saying, look, this now has a lot of content in it, and it feels really complete, and they fixed quite a few of the things we didn't like. Not everything, but quite a few of the things.
Spongy enemies, are those
they're still there. I mean, but the thing is, you're never going to avoid that, are you? Like, it's like we talked about how silly it is to have modern day weapons, but an RPG shooter where inherently stuff's going to have to be about numbers. So there's that massive disconnect in your head where it's like, that's an M16. I shot a guy in a beanie with it, and he lost 10% HP. What the fuck? Or how do you get a version of an M16?
You're mixing skill-based gameplay with then the also RPG elements, and that's always infuriating.
And you're doing it with real weapons, like realistic looking weapons. So how does this M16 do 20 times the damage of this other M16? Like it's like, well, it's a special super secret classified M16. You've just got to get over that.
And say, this guy beat you because his armor's got 3 times as much health as yours. And you're like, okay, so I'm playing a pseudo skill-based game in which I can just get beat by somebody who...
It seems like it's mostly PvE. Like, they've really focused more on the PvE now. I still like the survival mode. I think the survival mode's fucking awesome because everyone starts with the same loadout there, so you don't have to worry about that. But I did go back into it briefly, but I'm not far enough. I don't have the max level character, so I wouldn't really notice what's different and what isn't. I went and did a mission.
Did they fix the hacking situation on PC?
Apparently, yes. Yeah, that's been...
When I stopped playing, it was like...
It was really bad, yeah. Apparently, they've dealt with that quite well.
Yeah.
But I'm being told that there's a lot of really good stuff now at endgame, and that the loot is a shit ton better, and that it just... I mean, performance-wise, it seems to run really well. It always ran really well for me anyway. I thought it was a beautiful engine. It ran absolutely wonderfully, and it was a great-looking game. I did a mission or two, and I'm like, yeah, this is how I remember it. It seemed a bit tighter. You know, the AI wasn't doing quite as many stupid things. I was headshotting stuff, and it was making a more satisfying splat noise, so I was okay with that. I thought that was pretty good. I think they changed the noise, a bit more of a splat, so I'm good with that.
It can make a big difference sometimes, you know.
It actually really can. Like, surprisingly, if you got a really good, satisfying audio report on weapons when you hit something with them, it can make a huge difference as to how they feel. But you know what I'm thinking is really going on with this? I'm sure the Division is improving, and it's, you know, climbing back up to where it's probably was supposed to be and what they promised initially. I think, actually, it's benefiting from the fact that Bungie cannot stop fucking up. Consistently, over and over again, fucking up Destiny 2, to the point where people are like, the game that you promised is what I want. You're not offering it to me, so I'm going to go to either Warframe or The Division that offer similar enough experiences and actually have content and have devs that aren't crazy and actually listen to us, etc., and don't constantly try and fuck with us and lie to us about things. Like, I have a feeling there's a big aspect of Destiny resentment that is fueling The Division right now.
Yeah, Bungie's got to tread lightly, you know, because they made this massive IP. They just created it out of nowhere and had a success on their hands, which is like kind of amazing, really. That's a huge feat for any company. And now they got their sequel, and they've been... Well, I haven't actually played it for a while.
Oh, God.
But I hear the microtransaction stuff got really bad, and
I've been trying to keep track of what's wrong with it.
The multiplayer aspect of it, right? Because it's like, okay, like this is going to have that Halo vibe that I've been seeking with some interesting sort of class variants and whatnot. But
apparently the PvP is a shit show. And that's one of the main complaints about with it. There's a massive shit show, and you've got the good old WoW problem back where we had WoW PvP and weapons and armor balanced around either PvE or PvP, and one was fucking with the other. Apparently the Division's got that. Not the Division, sorry. Destiny 2's got that in spades as a problem, and there's a division in the player base between who wants what and how to balance what. But it's the reports that I've been seeing, bear in mind, don't play the game. The stuff that I see popping up on Reddit or on news sites on a daily basis are just little petty, stupid things that Bungie are doing that are just pissing people off. Like the way that they put hidden caps on XP and didn't tell anybody. Or the way they limited certain things and didn't tell anybody. And the amount of shit they're putting behind bright engrams and into the Eververse microtransaction system and all this other shit.
Can we... Look, ignore for a minute everything about Destiny. Just ignore Destiny 2.
I've been ignoring Destiny 2 for months, at least in terms of playing it. But
maybe things have changed, but the one thing that drove me crazy about Destiny 2, and to this day, still, I think it might be a Destiny thing. One time I went to go do some stuff on a planet with some friends, and everyone's like, hey, we're going to this other spawn point. I'm like, okay, everyone warps out. I don't know where they go. I don't see them on a minimap. I don't see them on the overmap. I don't see them anywhere. It's literally, you can kind of tell which direction they're in because there's so many twists and turns. It's like, okay, well, there's 3 things that way. So which one are you guys at? And you have to like, I fucking hate that shit. Just let me see it on the minimap, goddammit. I don't know why that's not in that game. It's the simplest quality of life thing. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. That shit right there was like, all right, well, I'm never playing this game again. I'm done. I can't do this.
Well, that game's got such a massive problem with how bad its suite of social features is for a game that they're constantly claiming as an MMO, which is how they can justify selling you $30 expansion packs like every 2 fucking months. Like, that's, bear in mind, it was supposed to be a subscription-based game until they changed it to that, which is basically the same thing anyway, because if you don't buy the stuff, then you'll get locked out of content. So you might as well be subscribing for $15 a month as it is. It's the same fucking system. But the social features that are there...
Terrible.
They're like, WoW had better social features 10 years ago than this. Like, it's not a social MMO. It's not. You don't have anywhere close to enough shit in that game to justify that. And you've also got the big problem where people are comparing it to Destiny 1, which had 3 years of development and expansions to make it good. And now you just reset everything again, and you're slowly adding stuff back in from Destiny 1, but you're making people pay for it again. Or you're hiding it behind a fucking microtransaction or something.
I do have a question.
Oh, yeah.
Like, do we know, aside from the cynical reasons, do we know why they were like, we're making Destiny 2 now?
It's basically they signed a really stupid deal with Activision over about a 10-year period or something. My numbers could be completely off here. They signed like a 3-game deal with Activision over a certain period of time. They had to make it. Like,
so there's gonna be a Destiny 3?
Yes, there's going to be Destiny 3. They have to make it. I'm not sure what the specific deal was. I'd have to look it up because this was years and years ago.
What a fucking ludicrous system for an MMO like game where it's like, well, we're not going to do expansions. The characters you created are being gone. We're going to make a 3rd game now. Like, that's insane to me.
It's totally nuts, man.
They
really
do that
depressing.
kind of shit in all forms of media, right?
Yeah, but like,
not to this extent.
Way ahead of time, we're like, all right, we're going to make this many standalone things that people have to buy or see,
But
right,
they
but none of it involves
DLC
like
format, for quite a while, and built up a player base and sort of refined the multiplayer and made the game good and kept building on it as sort of a game as service type concept, rather than like, here's a massive world recreated, here's the sequel, like a couple
I don't get that at all. That
doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, we will be getting a Destiny 3, and probably the same shit will happen again as a direct result. And you're right, it's totally bizarre. Because honestly, if I look at Destiny 1, I look at the list of the features, I'm like, wow, if they actually brought that to PC, this is a game I would play. Because actually, with all of the stuff that game has, there's enough stuff to keep me interested for a good long period of time. To the
that's
point
what my
where,
hope for Destiny 2 was like, oh god, okay, we're gonna get all the cool shit from 1, plus new shit is gonna be amazing. No, it's like we're start from scratch. It's the same. It's the same problem when you see like a new MMORPG come out. They're like, we're going to compete with ones that have been around for 15 years.
For 15 years and have 15 years worth of content behind them. Yeah, you can't do it. It's not possible.
It's impossible.
You just can't. And and this will happen again. Unless they are somehow able to, and I'm pretty sure they can't because their contract says they've got to make another game. Like, if they were able to take Destiny 2 and take all the content from Destiny 2, just, use the same engine, put most of the same content in it, and then sort of release it as a Destiny 2.5. But LevelCap's completely right. Like, they're trying to use a games as a service model, but we know there's another game coming out in like 2.5 to 3 years that's going to reset everything. So it's not really games as a service at all, is it? Like,
not to mention the actual game design flaws with it. So like in an MMO RPG type game, you have to have some semblance of interesting story behind it. The sequel was, I mean, let's be honest, they were both pretty much
right.
garbage.
That's the right there. You're right. You're right.
The first one was like vagueness on top of vagueness.
Yes,
Go fight the darkness.
Look it up on the internet.
We'll tell you later, or it's in a wiki.
Is literal darkness at the end, and you're like, I thought this was a metaphor for like, nope, just darkness. Okay, so you fight the darkness. Storyline stupid. Fan base gets upset because you didn't read all the like shit on the website to understand the backstory or whatever. Second game is like the most basic, literal, like I'm a big bad guy and I'm invading the earth. And
holy shit! Most
painful cliche monologues.
Unbelievable. I was watching that. I'm like, you expect me to be invested in this shit? Bearing in mind, I know
$500 million bought that dialogue, that script right there. It's so bad.
Jesus.
And my transition from Destiny 1, like I played Destiny 1 quite a bit until I like just was like, so it's just grinding now, you know, and then I stopped playing it. But Destiny 2 from storyline to grinding was like an almost instantaneous transition. Beat the campaign in like,
and then that's what you do. Yeah.
And then it's just like, I went into multiplayer. Some guy has this weapon that kicks my butt because it shows him on the radar where I am all the time. And so I'm just like, how is this guy shooting me as I'm coming around a corner? Oh, he's using something called like the Midas multi-tool. And it shows
that
you
don't have.
I'm like, okay,
cool.
How do I get this? Grind these missions for the next 20 hours. I'm like, this is so weird. Now I have to go do things that I hate doing to do the things that I enjoy doing. Like that was just my issue with Destiny in the first place. And I was like, cool, they'll fix it for the sequel because they said they're going to, and that multiplayer you'll be able to unlock items from just playing multiplayer. And now you can't really. So
I'm curious, and this is just wild throwing it out there. Why Destiny 2 didn't give you the ability to transfer a character over and start that character like this character starts max level for you.
And
then any new player start at that level. So like yeah, sure, you start at level 20 or level 30 or whatever, and the new characters start at that level too. And then like the whole idea of like you were strong and you lost you're the only one who can you lost everything and I have to start over again is like the lamest.
How are they going to do that for Destiny 3? You have to start
3,
again.
How that happened?
God damn it! It's like, how do we keep falling for this shit?
Well, yeah, and you want. I mean, I'm not somebody who ever got super obsessed with an MMO. I guess would be the right word, but like, isn't part
you
of
play
the
a decent
MMO
amount of
that
Final
you're
Fantasy,
constantly getting stronger.
Well, yeah, you'd think so. You would think so, but apparently not.
I gotta step off for
no worries. We're actually going to break anyway, so it's all good. Yeah, but yes, I mean, you'd think that would be how an MMO would work, but Destiny 2 is not an MMO, despite the fact that it keeps pretending to be. Anyway, we're actually way overdue for a break, so we'll be right back after the break, folks. You watch the Co-optional Podcast. Don't go anywhere. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Co-optional Podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed your break and the sounds of the soundtrack from the rather wonderful There Came an Echo. It's pretty damn awesome. Haven't heard that one in a while. Some big giant circles and some Ronald Jenkins. Wonder what he's up to these days. He's very, very good at what he does. You should buy his albums, I think.
Ronnie Jenko?
Ronald Jenkins.
Ronald J.
With his strange hat and mannerisms. All right. What video games have been playing this week? What you got? Someone throw a hat in the ring.
Well, I mean, we talked about it a little last week, but I finally played and beat the new Rusty Lake game. That was super ridiculous and weird.
How long did that one take you?
It was so fun watching you play that since I had played it already.
Yeah, we discovered that there's a reason when we combine our forces, we solve mysteries and puzzles together so well, because the things you couldn't figure out, I figured out, and the things that I couldn't figure out, you were like, oh, that's easy. So there you go.
Yeah, it was crazy. There were some puzzles where I was like, oh man, I got stuck on this for a while. There were some of them where both of us had trouble, but multiple times I was like, oh man, I got stuck on this one for a while, and he figured it out instantly. And then other ones where I figured it out instantly and thought that they were really obvious, and he like completely overthought it.
That's my problem. I always overthink puzzles. I'm like, there's got to be a mystery here. There's got to be something that I'm not thinking of. I'll get to another overthought puzzle in a minute when I talk about the next game, but like literally it was 4 hours took to beat, 4 maybe 5 hours. They're all really short. It's
This
just
is the third
bizarre
game
and
in the
weird.
series, is it?
Third game in the Rusty Lake series, but apparently there are like 8 cube escape games, and
Okay.
apparently those are the games that will make all this make sense according to the
Yeah.
internet.
That's what I played if it's the same Cube Escape games I'm thinking of, I played those forever ago, and I don't remember them being in any way connected to what I've seen in Rusty Lake. So I'm like, I guess I'll go back and replay those. But
Everyone keeps saying like, you gotta go play those. They explain stuff. I'm like, do they?
okay.
But it is a bizarre game that only gets weirder as you play it, and the more you play, the stranger shit gets. And this one, I'm glad. I will simply say at the end of it, you're like, oh, we're starting to make connections to the other games, and actually things start to make sense, and you're like, in a weird, like really messed up way, things are making sense now, and I don't know why it shouldn't. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited. Apparently more are coming. So shout out to Rusty Lake. Speaking of overthinking shit and bizarre weird stuff, I finally got around to playing the, brace yourself, the Final Fantasy 15 DLC Assassin's Creed Festival.
Oh, that thing. Right. Yeah.
All of it, yeah. So like just take a moment, let that sink in.
Oh
There's
God,
an Assassin's
that's the
Creed
wrong
event
button.
in Final Fantasy 15, and I want you just to take a moment to just, you don't have to watch all the stream. Just go, whenever I upload it, go watch the first like 5 minutes in which Prince Noctis, while driving to the festival, explains his love for the Assassin's Creed video game franchise. And then, and then when they get to the festival, a character starts talking about how the assassins are legendary heroes who used to live in this world. So the canonical reason for this festival is, one, there were assassins who live in this world. They then created an Assassin's Creed video game in this world based off the assassins in their world that just happens to look like and be like Assassin's Creed in our world.
Really? Okay.
Head explosion. It is insane.
Wait, so is this a cross promotion thing?
Oh, fuck yes, it is. It is bonkers.
Wait, is Final Fantasy?
Nope.
No?
This is just, I think someone wanted money or they were fans. I couldn't tell you what happened, but it's a promotion for the new Assassin's Creed game.
Relation between the two games, I'm like, same producers.
There's none. I can't think of a relationship. Even the gameplay mechanics don't work well with the scenario they're giving you. You have to sneak, but there is no crouch and hide. You just have to slowly walk behind dudes. You like it. There's moments where you like leap of faith into carts of hay, and you're like, wait, why are there carts of hay in front of it? It's insane. It is truly one of the most insane things I've ever been a part of. At one point, it bugged out, and I was stuck in a marketplace being killed over and over again because you have to run during this part, but there was no way to leave the marketplace. And then when they kill me, I'd get my life back to 100%. And so I couldn't die. I couldn't die, and I couldn't leave. It was hell. I can't.
This doesn't sound like a good thing. It is like, it's terrible, but for some goddamn reason, it's entertaining because of how like idiotic and insane it is, but it's not, I can't say it's good. Not an all
free,
good
so
conscience.
like live your dream, play it if you want to, but like it is not great. However, it's insane enough that if you want to see some crazy shit, like play it. But at one point,
I'd rather just watch it so I don't have to deal with playing it.
Well, they do have a mystery that I think is pretty fun. You have to find the Apple of Eden, and so it's like a treasure hunt. And I will say, I overthought 99% of it to the point where at the very end, it like the clue that I got, I was like, hold on. Is it literally just I have to go do this? I had spent who knows how long trying to figure this shit out. I was like, no. And when it worked, I almost cried because I realized every time there's a riddle, I think it's like, I gotta go in there and I gotta fucking Da Vinci code this whole damn thing. And it's never the case. The riddles are never that complex. It's always just like, no, literally that's what you have to do. What an insane fucking
was there
thing.
parkour mechanics in Final Fantasy? Did they do that? No. No. That's the whole. They added them so like what it is you go to something you can parkour, you press X, and then you like get up on it and you do the parkour movement. The problem is because the mechanics of Final Fantasy are like interacting and jumping is X. So sometimes you'll like jump and then not touch something, and it's jank. It's super jank. It is ridiculous. And at one point I was on a mission and I literally got stuck on a ledge and I'm like, climb. And he wouldn't, and the guy who I'm supposed to follow just walks out of frame. It's like, you failed. I was like, what? It is not good, but whatever. It's yeah. But the one thing they do I think is hilarious is in Final Fantasy 15, the very first boss you fight is a guy named Loki. And he introduces himself. He's like, I'm Loki and I'm a badass. And then you kill him and he never shows up again in the game. He's in this DLC. So there you go.
Hey,
yeah. So you get some backstory. I was like, all right, I'm okay with this. What a ludicrous game. So yeah, that's what I played. I played Assassin's Creed in a Final Fantasy game. Because fuck it, there are no rules anymore. It's 2018. 0 rules. Nothing matters anymore. Nothing.
Going out of your way to waste your time at this point.
That was an all-day stream. I played it so long. And too long, some might say. No achievements were in that thing. All it does is it gets you like a shield and photos. Was it worth it? Some may say no.
Most would say no, I think.
Oof.
Dear God.
Oof.
Really
that's what I did.
I'll tell you something I tried to play and I've been sort of battling against more so than anything, and that's the Switch version, Darkest Dungeon.
Oh, really? Is it causing you problems?
Yeah, it seems like a pretty good format for it. I mean, honestly, for me, the best format for Darkest Dungeon is like an iPad, right?
Sure.
You know, touchscreen, ideal for that. Problem is, for some fucking reason, and I have no idea why, they still haven't got the damn DLC on the iPad version. Like, the iPad version is still versions behind all the others. I don't know why, but I don't want to waste time on it until they get Crimson Court and the Shield Breaker and everything in, and all the changes in there.
And last week we were talking about how, the Switch version is going to have everything.
Has everything right off the bat.
Might as well just get the Switch version.
Yes,
Yep.
so I did. And, so if you're going to play it handheld, you think, right, well, it probably has the touchscreen functionality, right? Well, it does, but it's not very well implemented. And also, you quickly realize that's not very good touchscreen, and it's quite small. So you're probably not going to succeed by using the touchscreen all that much, because that UI, there's a lot of stuff on it, and it gets a bit fiddly, and my fingers are a bit big for that. But I've been mostly trying to play it docked on my big TV, which means, of course, no touchscreen. It means use a controller. The control combinations are they're something. I'll say that.
Go on.
They are something. I already get very confused by Nintendo controls because I never grew up with them, and they've got those weird names for shit now. It's like there's a plus button, and this is ZL and ZR, and I'm like, this is fucking what?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Is what? I don't know what that is, but okay, sure. And there are several combinations where you have to use more than one key at once. And you've got to remember which of, like, it's ZR and A here, but maybe it's X if you want to get it to do this. I think there was, even for something as simple as getting the torch lit, I think it was something like the bumper and then X, but don't press B because that'll snuff. So make sure you press the right button. And I can't remember I can never fucking remember the right order on a Nintendo controller for A, B, X, Y, because they're all over the fucking place. Because I keep thinking it's an Xbox, and so I end up pressing the wrong damn button. And the inventory navigation and getting trinkets properly equipped to stuff is quite the thing. Let me put it that way. You're consistently you're battling the UI, and I have accidentally done a lot of stuff in that game, and that is not the game to accidentally do things in. Right. Like, for instance, I shoved my camping gear into a curio, which was cool because you kind of need that for a long dungeon. But I did it because wrong button. Oops. So that was great. You know, my most important item in my inventory disappears completely. It's like, this has no use here. It's like, no, I just threw my camping gear into a barrel and I can't get it back. Or end up dropping a really valuable item or trinket because I pressed A instead of X or something. And, oh, bloody hell, it's really annoying. It is incredibly irritating. There are ways that would make it easier. I think if they permanently had the tooltips up all the time for the button combos, that would probably help. But they don't. They're only up at certain times. But one way or the other, the way they have designed the key, and I think anyone who played the Vita version probably suffered similar problems, is not good. It's, you are battling, you are fighting that game, and unfortunately, because that touchscreen is so small, that's not going to fix your problems either. Which was really disappointing, because I really want to dive back into Darkest Dungeon in a big way, and I thought that'd be a good way to do it. But I have found that I don't really want to play more of it on Switch because of how fucking convoluted the controls are.
Yeah, because you're right. It's the sort of game where you're already struggling. It's already a difficult game, right? You don't need the mechanics and how the buttons are laid out to add to the difficulty. Like,
no, you don't. You don't. You don't want to be accidentally doing that shit
in that game so that you don't get unduly frustrated.
Yeah, an accidental use, I mean, hell, accidental use of items was an issue on PC where you accidentally clicked stuff. It's way worse on Switch because of the way the controls work. I mean, hell, the inventory isn't even up 100% of the time. You've got to press D-pad down, I think, to bring the overall inventory up. And D-pad up brings the map up. God, zooming in and out of the map, that's a fucking adventure. There's all sorts of crazy shit going on with that. Yeah, it's actually really disappointing because obviously in every other aspect it's great. Obviously it runs perfectly and it looks great and everything like that, and it's got all the content, but fuck me, they need to sit down and have another look at those controls. I don't know if there's any kind of rebinding. Maybe there is. Maybe I could dive in and try and fix some of it myself, but holy shit. I'm just flummoxed by it.
Yeah.
I really am.
Such a bummer.
Yeah.
I have a couple of friends who had never tried it before and have tried it now that it's on Switch and have said like, oh man, this is actually a really fun game. So I'm glad that like they're reaching new people, but it does suck if it's just not super intuitive the way.
Yeah, it's just that, like I said, it's just the controls. There's too many room for mistakes, and there's too many multiple button combinations and things like that. And yeah, like I said, if they had the tooltips up all the time to remind you what the buttons are, I'd probably be fine with it. But there's still some really awkward shit about how, like, you know, getting to a character, then opening a character's menu, and then equipping him with a trinket is actually a really hard and difficult process, to the point where when it first came out, I put it out on Twitter, asked how to do it, and nobody knew. Like, there was like, if you can find out, could you tell us? Because we don't know either. And it ended up being some stupid 4-step process of, what? How is this hard? Like, I would rather have an analog stick just be a virtual mouse, honestly, for most of that. Like, go the Destiny route with it. That would actually work better for a lot of it. Yeah, so very confusing, which is quite disappointing because I'd have loved to spend a lot more time with it. So I guess I'm just going to wait for them to update the iPad version, whenever the fuck that is, and I don't know why they haven't done it yet. Because it's way better on that than anything else, for obvious reasons.
You would think that'd be their biggest market, too. Sounds like trying to play a shooter on a cell phone or something.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if it's actually because they're asking for money, and asking for money on an iOS device is difficult. People don't like buying games.
Tons of ads in our face.
Yeah, of course. Or like, or they could do something like Hero Academy 2, for instance. Oh my, Hero Academy. You remember that game? from a long time ago. You remember how that was good? Because it was, and you're wrong if you're saying it wasn't. Just want to point that out. It was good, and you had that. You had the TF2 team. Remember, like it came out on Steam, and they added the TF2 guys as a team.
Yeah,
and you could play that, and that was really cool. It was a really awesome sort of.
Just Google it.
Yeah, there you go. You know what it was. It's from like 2011. It was one of the first good phone games. Then they brought it out on PC, and they had all the TF2 characters as an actual faction you could play, which was fucking awesome. And basically, everybody had a faction to play, and it was a turn-based sort of a 1v1 tactics game. And everybody had the same deck, but you could like get factions for like a few bucks that were different decks. And that was it. Like there was no card collecting or anything like that. Everyone was on a level playing field. It was really good. Hero Academy 2 has gone full-on collectible card game with this concept in just the most ludicrous of ways that has thrown all of the things I liked about Hero Academy right out of the window.
Oh no.
Yeah. I'm not surprised they went this. I'm not surprised they went this way because it's a way to make infinite money, right? Card packs, blah, blah, blah. You know, instead of Hero Academy where everything was fair and you could buy all the factions for like a couple of bucks each and then everyone was on a level playing field. Fuck that shit. Fuck being on a level playing field when you can collect cards to make sure that you're not on a level playing field and you've got better shit than the other guy. Yep, they went full on with that.
I don't know. I don't think card packs or loot boxes have really proven themselves as a effective microtransaction now. I don't know.
Well, some games are making a shit ton of money from it.
Oh, I'm just kidding. It's
I know.
Like the new way that everybody is like, oh,
We've got to somehow turn it into card packs in some way. It's like,
how about a crate that opens up and explodes and you get a random set of items from it?
Yeah, this is a Northern Lions shill video that I've got on here. He was sponsored to play this. This is actually how I found out that the game existed and then was massively disappointed by it. But the gameplay is quite similar to the original, whereby you put units on a board and you buff those units up with items and stuff and you have them fight. And there's a lot of good layers of complexity in there in terms of people have different weapon types that work differently in different ways, and you can equip them with a bunch of different magical weapons and stuff like that. So, like, the card diversity really helps there because it makes the game a lot more in-depth and complex, and there's some really good interactions. The problem is, of course, they're selling you the packs to get them. And in a big way as well. And getting access to the other factions, you can't even get them at the start of the game. You've got to play like the basic Empire faction. You've got to keep leveling up and then buying a whole bunch of new stuff and different packs just so you can play the other factions. You know, I can't even make a deck of the second factions because I don't have enough fucking cards of that faction to do it with. You know, they just went full on mobile collectible bullshit with it. There's currency after currency after currency piled in it. There's several different kinds of them. The only thing that I think it's really got going for it is it has an extensive single player set of campaigns that do let you earn quite a lot of stuff. And the campaigns are generally unlocked through a fairly easy to collect in-game currency. Outside of that, though, it's like, God, Hero Academy was such a really cool, well-balanced, simple, competitive game that I absolutely loved. You could play it cross-platform between PC and mobile. I played a shit ton of it. I played a bunch of it with Jen, actually. My video from 2012 on this game is me playing Hero Academy with Jen, and that's got the TF2 guys on there and everything.
Yeah.
And it was really fucking awesome. And, you know, it was balanced and it was fun. And this, not this, absolutely not. It's, oh God, the whole collectible thing is just...
Do you ever think that the whole legislation of loot crates and card packs and all that stuff will ever go through and change the transaction model for these games and force people to pay a
Not for
set-
CCGs.
No.
Like even if there is something done with loot boxes, legislation wise, like loot boxes and card packs, we already figured out whether or not card packs are gambling or not about 20 years ago when this came up with stuff like Magic the Gathering and trading cards for baseball cards and stuff. Yeah, we already know that that's not the case. But it's definitely not a good model, because just the sheer amount that you have to invest and the amount of time that you have to throw in to a game that you'll probably then stop playing, and then all that stuff's just wasted is just. And I'm someone that really likes card games, and I haven't thrown money at a card game since Hearthstone, and I haven't played Hearthstone outside of the dungeon run mode in over a year. I haven't bought anything in Hearthstone in over a year. Like, do you really feel like starting again with another card game and saying, right, more here, have some more money? Not really, no. Not with digital card games. You know, at least
There's
with
definitely a burnout when it comes to stuff like that, where you're just like, I spent a bunch of money on this one thing, and now I'm not having fun with that. And no way I'm going to spend money on something else. And like you hit a point eventually where you're like, no, I'm out. I'm out of that.
Yeah, I'm done.
I think that it's also the same kind of a concept as like with MMOs, like we were talking about earlier. If you've sunk a lot of time into something, you're like, why would I bother starting from zero when I've already spent so much time on this other game?
Right.
Well,
So...
and I mean, there's games that exploit that in a big way. Like these account-based games, they really play on the sunk cost fallacy in a big way. It's like, it was with League of Legends, for me in particular. I probably would have quit that game 6 months before I did it, if not for having as much stuff as I did in that game. I'm like, well, I can't leave, because look at all of this stuff that I've got.
Yeah.
There's so many account-based games and games as services that rely on that to keep people in.
Right.
But on the flip side, it means that you can really burn out and then never want to go back. Like, I don't want to spend money to get back into Hearthstone. Like, I'm 3 or 4 expansions behind now.
Yeah.
Am I going to go and try and buy all of that? That's like the $1.5 grand's worth of cards or some shit. You know, and that's assuming I don't of course, I could DE my whole collection and get quite a lot of it that way. But fuck me, it's just such a daunting proposition. I just don't want to do it.
Yeah, it's a bit rough. I feel the same way with Hearthstone too. The last expansion came out and I just didn't have time to get into it the way I like to, but I still felt obligated to at least buy like one batch of cards. So I'm like, oh, so I'm not out of it next time it comes around. But I felt like when I did that, I was like, oh, am I like, is this an addiction problem now? Like, what's going on?
Gotta throw
the answer is
$50 at it,
Yeah,
at least. Gotta do that big pre-order for 60 packs to save $10 or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. It's gotten, the transaction models have gotten very aggressive, and I think Blizzard is one of the least aggressive. So if I'm addicted to one of the lesser aggressive microtransaction models, you know.
I don't know if that's true with Hearthstone. Like, I would maybe agree with some of their other games, but with Hearthstone, they're very aggressive. Like, I'd say incredibly so. They're one of the most expensive online card games that exists. Like, compared to a lot of the other ones, they are expensive card pack wise. You don't get a lot of cards in the packs compared to other card games, and they're very stingy about acquiring cards in other ways. Whereas a lot of other games, off the top of my head, Elder Scrolls Legends is more generous. Eternal is more generous. Shadowverse is more generous. And obviously there's a few other examples. Like Plants vs. Zombies, Heroes is more generous. It's outside of like actual Magic the Gathering, you know, it's hard to find something stingier than Hearthstone, I think, when it comes to card acquisition.
At least you can sell your cards in Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, you know, you can sell your collection at the end of it, at least. You know, and they always have some value, even if it's only a few cents.
I had a friend appraise my collection not that long ago, and he was just like, "Yeah, it's a couple $100 here." I'm like, "What? Are you kidding me?"
That's all right, but at least, you know, it's a couple of $100 at least.
Yeah, that's better than here's my locked Hearthstone account. Golden legendaries.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of, you know, you can always break those cards out and play again. There's nothing stopping you, and there's actual formats that support playing with the old cards as well. Whereas Hearthstone has a degree of that with Wild, but mostly it's you play constructed and you play with your rule set, or they don't play at all. But you're noticing a lot of these other card games are moving to different models of play. Like, people are sick of the old models of play, so like, well, we're just going to do a draft.
Right.
Or we're just going to play this mode, which is like a kind of set, sealed deck format. Or we're going to do something that does not involve having to own a $600 deck. Right now, I've got a box of 1,000 Magic cards, and I've got a big booster box of the new Stupid set, which is like the one where there was, I think there's a literal card, I think that may have been the last set, possibly this one, where it says, get a Nerf gun, shoot a Nerf dart at your opponent's cards, anything knocked off the table is immediately removed from the game. Like, that stuff, that kind of stupid stuff, which is banned even in those tournaments because it can damage the cards. But
that's a slippery slope right there.
Hey, in the first set,
fist fight with your friend.
In the first set,
sacrifice one card from his hand if he loses.
Hey, in the first set, there was something called Chaos Confetti. You have to tear the card up and throw it on the table. Anything it lands on, remove from the game.
One made headlines.
Yeah, remove from the game. It was fucking nuts. And those sets are like released as jokes, and I've got a booster of that, and I'm like, so I've got that, these 1,000 cards, most of which are like commons and uncommons from various sets. Mix it in with that and kind of basically just have a big box draft, and just draft out of that box, and we get different decks every time, and just play with that. Like, don't do anything else. Just, I've got a collection. It's not an incredibly competitive collection, but if I'm only playing with friends and family, I don't need a fucking big competitive collection. I just need a bunch of cards, and then we just draft them and go.
Yeah.
That seems like the way to go these days.
Yeah, nobody wants to lose to the buddy who spent $3,000 on cards.
No, they really don't. No,
I've got this deck. It's built off of last year's Grand Championship finals. And you're like, okay,
yeah.
Cool, dude.
you beat me.
That's how everyone kind of learned to play Magic back in the day. Like, the friend who was super, super good. They're like, how do you do this? What is this? And they're like, let me show you. Here's the cards you're going to play with. And then you just get shit on. And you're like, one day I'll be better than you. And that's what happened. That's what happened for me. I was like, I'm going to get every fucking card I can.
Yeah, everybody had that one
later.
friend at least who like went to, local competitions and stuff. And you were like, damn, he must be really good.
Yeah. I think it's all these different formats, especially with physicals, that are allowing a lot more people to play it. And those formats don't exist in most digital card games. Like the I keep mentioning it. I think I mentioned it maybe last week when we said, hey, there's a Lord of the Rings card game coming to PC and iOS. And I mentioned the living card game model, which is what this is, whereby when you buy the set, you get all the cards in it. And then all they do is they release a new set like every few months, and then you just buy the set. Right. And kind of something like Ascension or Dominion. You just buy the box and it's got all the cards in it. So I would happily play a digital card game that did that, which, as it turns out, the Lord of the Rings card game, which is a co-op card game, it's not a 1 versus 1 game, is doing. So if there was a 1 versus 1 card game that did that, where every few months they're saying, yeah, you want to pay $30 for our expansion, you get all the copies of all the cards. I would say yes. I would absolutely do that. The thing is, right now, of course, Hearthstone can get, from people like me, $400 for all the cards instead. So, but that's the question, is it? Do you want to make a game where a shit ton more people can have all the cards for $30, or do you want a game where the 1% gets all the cards for $400 and everyone else sort of scratches and claws and spends what they can? What makes the most money? Well, in the case of this, obviously it's Hearthstone because it makes money hand over fist. But what if Hearthstone didn't exist? Which of these two models would work, let's say, if you had two games with equal-sized player bases? I would like to know. And I would play the game that let me have the set for $30 every couple of months. I think a lot of people would too. Because then away goes that fucking complaint of, oh, I don't have that legendary card, and that's why I lost that game. Well, dude, you do have that legendary card, because if you bought the set, everybody has it. I'd play that.
I want to believe that in like a perfect world, that would be amazing. Like everyone gets every card and everyone, but for some reason, the asshole side of me knows that the reason why card games are popular the way they are is because you can be like, this is my rare card that you don't have, and I just drop this on you and like get
definitely part of that. There's
and so
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I as much as I want to believe like everyone can have every card, and that's amazing, it's great. The idea that like either I can get lucky enough to get a better card than you, thus making me better than you, or I can pay my way to being better than you is something that I think a lot of people just can't pass up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I remember I've been criticized in the past for like paying to win and shit. I'm like, dude, you knew if you could pay to win, you fucking would. And you'd relish in it. Of course you relish in it. It's like, yeah, I paid to win, and yeah, I just shit on you with all of these fucking things. I'm like, don't hate the player, hate the game.
But because there's such a culture of that, I think it's also created like the anti-whale. It's created like a group of people who have a lot of pride in like, I haven't spent a fucking dime on this game.
Yeah. Oh yeah, people get militant about that.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
And then those are also the people who are in the game constantly. So it's a win-win for the dev because you're like, yeah, don't spend any money, but you're constantly playing my game.
Yes.
So there's always people online. It works great.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, that's how a lot of those models work out at the end of the day. And it's not sustainable, though, because it only works for a certain number of games. And all the other games just die because they don't have a large enough player base to sustain them. And let's be fucking honest, you know, asking $400 every few months for some virtual cards is unfucking reasonable. That's unreasonable for anybody, even people that can write that shit off on their taxes, even people that can stream it and make money off it. If even I am saying that's fucking unreasonable, then yeah, there's a fucking problem there. Come on. That is an absurd amount of money for a video game. That's ridiculous.
You can tell how much money they're making by the quality of their trailers that come out every
yeah, there's a lot of money put in that.
This cost, my God.
Yeah.
Well, we just bought Pixar, so fuck it.
Yeah, just have them do it.
Yeah, it was a pittance.
Oh, Jesus. Tell you a game I have been playing a lot of because the missus got into it and is now very scarily good at it, and that's Antihero. Well, I think our current scoreline is 8-1 in her favor. Fuck me. She is really good at it. Scarily good. She came to me after playing. Is like, oh yeah, so I finished the campaign on hard. I'm like, you what? Like, because that's quite challenging. It's like, do you want to play? I'm like, yeah, totally. You know, I'd love to play a 1-versus-1 competitive digital board game with you. That's like seeing a fucking flying unicorn in the middle of an eclipse shitting down gold bullion on the top of my house. I would like that's a very rare opportunity. At which point she annihilates me over and over and over again. I finally got a win on her at one point, and I think I'm looking good on this round as well. But that's that when you play the same person over and over again in a game like that, the meta starts to really evolve. And it's really interesting to see how that's happened because she never used to build thugs in that game at all. Until she realized that I was going around evicting all of her fucking urchins and shit and using my assassins to screw with things and using my gangs to murder her gangs. I was always like leveling up my gangs more than hers. So she just started to create blocks everywhere with thugs. Like, so I couldn't get to any of the places I need to go to. And then she discovered the saboteurs. And I was like, then it was all over because she'd constantly predict where my fucking hero was going to go. It's good. Like being able to play that. You can play across platform. So I could take my turn on PC, or I could take my turn on my phone, or I could take my turn on my tablet, and you can take your turns whenever you want. So, and you even get an email that says it's your turn. So, yeah, Antihero is
I like the play
awesome
by
for that.
email aspect of that game a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So I dig that. That's been really, really good. And
and little do you know, she's giving you pity wins just so you'll continue to play.
Yeah, probably. You know, that's entirely possible. I'm gonna have to get her into something that I'm better at. I know she's been playing quite a bit of Hearthstone lately, but I don't know if she's I'm not going to get back into competitive in that, I don't think. We both did dungeon runs for ages because they're really, really fun, but they're not going to expand that mode because they don't make any damn money off it.
Right.
Which is why Slay the Spire is better, because it's basically dungeon runs but better. Put it on iOS.
So fun, man.
It is. So we played one thing that we didn't mean to play, but has come up on this show before, and that's 9 Parchments. If you remember. And Jesse missed out on this. We were actually going to play Full Metal Furies. That was the plan. The guys.
I was ready for that one.
Yeah, we were all ready to go. That game has some issues. Like, I couldn't get it to load because apparently it is, and this is what the devs told me, it is detecting something, possibly maybe my Stream Deck or some weird peripheral, as a DualShock pad, which automatically crashes the game as soon as it loads.
What?
And yeah, I know. And when Jesse loaded it, he had some massive resolution problems. And when Sinvicta loaded it, it crashed to desktop like twice in 5 minutes on him. So basically, that game, which is a kind of really crazy co-op action RPG by the guys that made Rogue Legacy, is a bit fucked right now. It's a bit fucked. So we're waiting for them to fix it.
That's too bad.
Yeah,
because it looks cool. It looks really fun.
Yeah, we're probably going to try it again this weekend or, something like that and give it a shot again because it does look really good. But in the meantime, the 3 of us, because Jesse ran off, we played 9 Parchments.
I don't want to play 9 Parchments.
But it's fucking great. 9 Parchments, it's like Magicka.
I wanted to clean instead.
I wanted to clean.
To do.
Oh god, but the 3 of us played 9 Parchments, and we fucking love 9 Parchments. We thought it was really, really good. We had a lot of fun with it. It is definitely somewhat like Magicka, no doubt about that. There was obvious inspiration taken from Magicka. It is much easier to cast spells than in Magicka because you don't have to do that crazy combination of elements and everything like that. And it's much more focused on being a magic brawler where you work as a team to take down the enemy. But the friendly fire aspect is a huge deal in that game. Absolutely massive deal. So accidentally killing your friends, accidentally pushing them off a bridge, accidentally, I set you on fire and you're running around with a fire dot on you, accidentally, is definitely a big thing in that game.
That sounds like some of the most fun friendly fire.
It's a really fun friendly fire, actually, extremely fun. And there's a shit ton of character unlocks. We only start with a couple of characters, but there's like over 30 characters that all have 3 unique skill trees each. There's like 40 or 50 different spells you can get. You can do shit like combine the beams to make a crazy super beam and everything like that. There's a bunch of really cool boss fights, and it's a really pretty game as well. It's made by the guys that made Trine, so it's a very colorful game. And we really had to work together because a lot of these different creatures have magic immunities. So, I can't use my really cool, awesome spell on him because he reflects it or he absorbs it or whatever. So we've got to work together against all of this crazy shit that's coming our way. And it was a good time. I'll say that. It was a really, really good time. It worked flawlessly in online multiplayer. The amount of really awesome unlocks and stuff that you can get, and the fact that there's like 60 different unlockable wizard hats and all sorts of shit like that it's some good stuff. I was expecting just Magicka light, and I ended up finding there was a lot more skill involved in this game than Magicka. Magicka is just chaos. This is a lot more sort of a skill-based brawler or dungeon crawler. It's probably the best way to describe it. Sinvicta described it as like Golden Axe with magic, which I'd go with that.
I think it definitely has a Golden Axe feel.
Yeah, because it's very much
like
going
the teamwork element to it too. That sounds. I haven't played it, but that sounds really cool. Just because, from my years and years of Diablo, it was always like, oh, who's got the best gear and stuff, and then he kills everything, and you're sort of like, I didn't kill anybody. But this looks really cool, in terms of working together.
Yeah, it's definitely not like that. You could take a level 60 character in there with a bunch more damage, but in reality, most of how effective you are is down to using the right spells on the right things and at the right time, because every spell has its own individual cooldowns and energy meters and all that sort of things. But once you start to get, and you can get up to 9 spells, it's pretty wild with the amount of stuff that you got going off on the screen. The friendly fire aspect being such a key part of the game. There's one unlockable character which sounds fucking hilarious. I think it's this mechanical owl and he's really into lightning, like really into it, to the point where every time he casts a lightning spell, he creates a lightning aura around himself that pulses for about 2 seconds. And if he keeps casting lightning spells, he keeps pulsing this lightning out, which means you can't stand anywhere near him because you will die. So there's basically you have to keep him away from the rest of the party at all times. But if any like enemies come near him, they just melt. So there's all sorts of crazy shit going on with that. We were really impressed. It is out on Switch as well, which is a fucking great platform for it. It's out on all the consoles, including Switch. So you could definitely do a sit down and do a 3 or 4 person couch session with this game, and I think it would work really well. And you can check out more of that on my channel because we did a video about it called Co-op Wizard Murder. And there was a lot of wizard murder, and I don't know if there was a lot of co-op going on. They give you a teamwork rating at the end of every level, and we mostly got Civil War. So the other one was How the Hell What We Don't Know, I think was the other one it said. So yeah, it was some good shit. We were really impressed with that game. Anyone else got anything else they've been playing this week?
I've been playing this indie game, really not very well known. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's called PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
I hear that's really
Puppy G.
Puppy G.
Yeah, it's really on the up and up.
That one potential. We'll have to wait and see if people get into it. But yeah, I've been.
How big into PUBG are you? Are you one of those people that it's just every day grind?
I'm not a zealot by any means. It's I've been playing shooters for too long, and bad game mechanics annoy me too much. So it's very much a love-hate relationship.
I was going to say, well, boy, will you love PUBG because it's full of those.
Because you get into it and you're like, okay, so all his damage dropped in 1 frame. I'm dead instantly. Hackers all over the place. Bad vehicle physics. Just people dying randomly. But it does have that really fun adventure mechanic that I don't think anybody's really delivered in a shooter before. So it's huge and it's fun for that reason. But I play in stints, like I'm good for 4 hours and then 4 hours and then 1 hour beyond that. And I'm absolutely livid. So
it just pisses you off too much. I couldn't play it for that long. I mean, I play Fortnite on an occasional basis. With PUBG, it was
which I will argue is a better game. But
it is in many ways.
I can't get into the cartoony nature of it, but just from a pure net code and performance and production value
from it actually running properly, it's pretty good.
And,
I mean, I wouldn't say it doesn't have better
as well.
It doesn't have better shooting mechanics. I wouldn't say. They're very arcadey compared to PUBG's, and I would prefer PUBG's to some extent because it is pretty cool for a weapon to feel a bit more realistic. But
when it's adopted the exact muzzle velocity of a real life M16 so that you can lead by the appropriate distances that they train military personnel to lead at like 300, 400 meters, you're like, okay, that's pretty cool. When the ACOG sight works as functions based on the distance markers, where you can measure the little thing on the scope based on the shoulder width of your opponent, and then zero them in, you're like, all right, that's 400 meters, take the shot, headshot. Like that feels
that is pretty crazy
when you're doing it, except for when the netcud's like, nah, none of that's gonna work. And
they don't actually let you. It's like, that's how it's supposed to work. That was like, obviously the mod was based in Arma 3, which was a mil sim shooter. So you're going to get quite a lot of that in there. But when it doesn't work, I can imagine that being frustrating as hell. There's got to be a middle ground. I need a game that has a middle ground between the two. I think because I prefer first person.
Someone's gonna.
Oh, they will. Totally.
Someone's already working on it. They're not telling anybody about it, and it's gonna drop, and it's gonna take the market. Because we saw PUBG come out, and all of a sudden people are like, H1Z, what? Like, what's that?
That got eaten alive.
I think this is like such a volatile market right now. PUBG's so huge that it'd be really hard to dethrone it, but I don't know if it's going to take all that much nudging to get people to just jump off the PUBG bandwagon if something better comes along. And I honestly don't think it's that hard to make something better than PUBG. It's from a design standpoint, it's got so many flaws in it. It's just, it has no competition other than Fortnite, and that's very much a do you like cartoon shooters or do you like milsim shooters pick?
Yeah, and I want someone in the middle. Like, I want a first-person shooter, which Fortnite isn't, So I want a first-person shooter. I want something that is authentic but not realistic. So in other words, I want Battlefield. Basically, you know, that's how I want my shooting to be. I want Battlefield.
Yeah.
And that's not what PUBG provides, obviously. But if there is a game that does that, and arguably, I think a smaller map with less players, for me, is better. I want a faster-paced game with less downtime. PUBG is full of downtime. A lot of people actually like that aspect. It's like, oh, I hate it. I hate it. That's why I much prefer Fortnite.
MMOs to hate looting mechanics. I'm just like, all right, so if you survive the first 10 minutes and there's some cool fun action there, now you play 20 minutes of running around and looting. Occasionally during those 20 minutes, you will find somebody in a closet who's going to blow your head off.
And then, well, that was the last 30 minutes gone, well spent, you know, running.
And then there's the end game,
Yeah, you know, there's when people call a PUBG a walking simulator, that's not actually unfair. Like, you know, they call DayZ the same thing, and they both have the same issue. Like, these giant fuck-off maps. I prefer my action to be more concentrated and for there to be way less downtime when I'm playing a game like that.
Yeah, and a big problem, too, is fighting the game itself instead of other players. And a shooter that's a battle royale amongst 100 players, I don't want 30 of those players to die to the circle closing in on them. You know, like that's terrible mechanics, because then you're like, I've had chicken dinners where we've seen hardly anybody, and then we like killed the last few people, and we're like, was that it? You know? Like
that's the interesting thing, right? About a PUBG having 100 players. Like, does that actually make any difference to you as the individual player when you don't see 95% of them?
It's all based on scale.
It might as well have 5 players, because I didn't see the other dudes. I don't give a fuck. Like, and I was an interesting, someone had announced some other Battle Royale game, and there was this guy who posted and said, oh, it's not a Battle Royale game, it doesn't have 100 players. I'm like, well, one, where the fuck did we get the rules for that from? You know, it certainly wasn't from.
This guy's got it all figured out.
Certainly wasn't from, I don't know, Battle Royale, which did not have 100 people in it, or the Hunger Games, which did not have 100 people in it. You know, you could totally have a much smaller one that would still be totally fine.
And it is funny that they seem to think 100 is necessary.
It's totally fucking not. It's way not.
I played a weird rendition of it on the devs that are making that Far Cry multiplayer shooter from forever ago, Warface. You know that game?
Yeah, Warface is doing that. Yeah,
crappy, but they came out with a battle royale that I think was like 16 players, and that worked fine because it was a small map, 16 players,
pretty much
map, circle moves, and I had more fun playing 5-minute rounds of that for quite a while because I was seeing action basically every minute pretty regularly. I mean, the game itself had so many crappy mechanics to it that, you know, it's not going to be successful. But like, you could see any size of battle royale working.
Of course,
100 players on 8x8 kilometers. Is guess what? You're not going to see people ever.
It's a lot of running and a lot of nothing.
And 500 buildings. People were expecting the new map to be smaller, but it got bigger and it got more buildings. So there's like a building for every player in the map.
Great.
There's 3 buildings for every player in the map.
Yep.
So, I mean, if you choose not to be aggressive, you won't see anyone. And the aggressive players won't find people either because the guys who are not playing aggressively are hiding in a building somewhere. And they're not
right.
They're just like, okay.
I have not. And then some people are mentioning this in chat, and I was about to bring it up. I have not tried the Darwin Project yet, but what I've seen of it is way more intriguing than what I initially thought. I think we all remember its little weird 5-second reveal at E3 where they had the shoutcasting commentator, and we were all just like, "This is the fakest shit ever." Turns out, the commentator is actually a real feature of the game.
At PAX South, they had the whole thing on like a huge stage, and it was playing all of the days. And it's literally, it is the Hunger Games. But like,
they made the Hunger Games
with the like, that's 75 out of 100. Like the guys are in it, and I don't know that I ever play it, but by God, I would fake cast the shit out of that. I would dress up and be like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah, the guy's called the show director. They say it's a living bridge between the players and spectators. He's a host that controls the arena. That's a cool thing. He can actually trigger things like nuclear bombs, zone closures, gravity storms, and use the power of their voice. I guess he can like give gifts and stuff like that. So it's apparently a 10-player battle royale experience. Like much more sort of focused down thing. They're characters that have different abilities and stuff. There's some survival elements to it. You can make traps and build stuff. And there's a bunch of live spectator interaction, which usually I would say that's gimmicky bullshit. But then you remember, wait a second, that was the whole fucking principle of the Hunger Games.
Right.
That it was
I think it looks
actually a
awesome.
show.
I'm not gonna lie, it looks really cool.
I'm far more interested in it now. It's a real shame that they hadn't emphasized that when they did the first reveal at E3, because I thought they looked like bullshit. But this is now,
right now.
I'm super interested. And this looks really unique. And there's some other weird thing that's happening at the moment involving Snoop Dogg and some battle royale.
He's playing
thing.
SOS right now.
SOS, yeah.
That's been pitched a lot. I know a lot of people lately have been getting codes and stuff for SOS, which is basically the exact same concept, except you're dropped on an island and you have to get a relic and then you have to escape with the relic. And that's sort of like the gameplay mode. But yeah, right now currently
players.
Snoop is doing this. People don't know whether he's actually playing or just like doing commentary.
I'm gonna go with probably just commentating.
Clips are starting to pop up I haven't watched one yet, but I know it's happening. So get ready. That's gonna be
There's some weird shit,
crazy thing.
Because there's PvE aspects to it. Because there's monster hordes, so it's a bit more like DayZ, with Battle Royale kind of put in there for good measure. It's also nice and colorful. It's a first-person game, which is great. But there is again an aspect apparently of role-playing, and it's kind of like a Running Man. Like they say, harken back to the days of 90s reality shows. Set up alliances, stab your friends in the back, and win the affection of viewers to become the ultimate star. I'm getting that Running Man vibe and those dystopian future death games sort of thing. This is some really interesting shit. Like, I'm intrigued by both of these games.
I'll admit I don't mind the idea of them actually trying to create an interesting story behind a battle royale too, because I don't know, you just get tired with the PUBG, like here's an island, here's some guns, go kill each other. Like I enjoyed the concept of like the futuristic death battle or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Prisoners pitted against each other to win their freedom, some cheesy
There's a game being made, I think, called Scum that I think is actually just that. I'm not sure if it's a battle royale game, but let me just double check. Yep, multiplayer open world survival game, and yes, you are a convict trying to win your freedom by the looks of it. Yeah, so that game exists.
If you think about it, because who would we want to release back into society? Only the most successful killers of
yeah, of course.
Like, oh, he's just a second-rate killer. Get a throw him back in prison, Like
no, it's like we need to unleash the most useless killers, like the guys that just couldn't murder even if they wanted to. It's like the guy with no arms. Like he's really short-sighted, and honestly, he wasn't really in there for much anyway. It's like, look, guys, it'll be fine. I'm not gonna do anything. Just let me out. Like fuck the rest of them. What I will say about those games that we've just listed. There is a vibe of streamer bait that I'm getting from it for very obvious reasons.
Of course.
Which is fine for us. Coolest. But does that mean, is it going to be fun for people who are not streamers? Or people who are even watching streams? Is it actually a game that is fun for people that play games? That's the question. Because in many cases, it isn't. We've definitely had games where it's like, that sounds incredible, and then people have turned around and said, yeah, but we're not streamers, we don't give a shit.
Yeah, we've definitely seen a lot of people try to take advantage of like streaming integration and stuff like that, and it seems like, and we've talked about this before, but it seems like overall, if your core game without any aspect of streaming sucks, then you're like,
then
it's not going to do well at all.
Yeah.
Right.
That has to be your focus, and integration or pandering to streamers has to be like secondary.
Yeah.
Like,
because I'm afraid, you don't make money by people watching your game. You make it by people buying it and playing it. And the hope is that it's an entertaining enough streaming experience that ends up marketing the game. But if it's not an experience that would be entertaining unless you had an audience, then I look at stuff like Darwin Project and I hear the word mixer and I'm like, you know, we're going a little bit too far into non-gamer territory here, and more into too much streamer and community interaction kind of shit. You know, all of that RP stuff sounds great until you realize if you don't have a bunch of funny friends, then it's not actually fun to play. It's like watching Dead by Daylight and Friday the 13th. You know, Are those actually fun to play without a good group of funny people doing the roleplay stuff? No, actually, they're really shit. They're very bad hide-and-seek games.
Hey, Dead by Daylight just had some DLC come out, guys.
Oh, it was for Saul, wasn't it?
TV, do you want to play?
No, I don't want to play Dead by Daylight. It's terrible. It was very bad.
Shocked.
Yeah.
I think the game, was it called Daylight? That zombie survival game? Similar? Is it called Daylight? Something like
Dying
that?
Light?
Dying Light.
Is that the one? I think they just announced a battle royale type.
Did they?
For their game.
That would probably work pretty well. Dying Light's also very good. So,
A lot of these old games are sort of like, we've lost a little bit of our steam, but what if we throw in battle royale in the game?
Why not? It's a mode, you know?
I mean,
I don't mind it. I'm totally on board with like just about every shooter, just trying it and seeing if it works. But, you know, people are stingier.
Well, so some people also get really militant about it. It's like, it's my idea, you copied it. In fact, you know, the player unknown, you know, the guy who made it is very militant about that shit, you know, and very whiny about that shit. I'm like, sorry, mate, you know, you create a genre, be proud of that, but everyone is now going to take your game mode, because it is a game mode.
For sure.
And they're going to put it in their game.
About Fortnite because they obviously work directly with Epic to get the PUBG working, and then all of a sudden Epic releases a game mode that's like a carbon copy.
Yeah, but that's like...
Well, the thing is, they didn't really work directly with them. All they did was they licensed their engine like every other game. They actually had no special relationship with Epic at all. So,
well, based on what he said online, it sounded like that
he was bullshitting. Yeah, they didn't have any special relationship. Like, the only relationship they had was the standard license that everyone signs to use the Unreal 4 engine. So
it sounded like to me like they had started building the game and then like needed optimization help or something from Epic and we're working with the team, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, they still need optimization help, so they evidently didn't get very far with that.
I slightly sympathize with them just because Fortnite directly just like they could have just done a few things just to make it less of a ripoff. But
I don't know. They've got building. They got building. It's a third-person game. You know, it's a completely different aesthetic.
So
well, of course they did. I mean, they took that out of Fortnite Save the Earth or whatever their PvE thing is, didn't they?
Yeah.
I've got no sympathy for it, just simply on the basis of, I don't give a fuck. If you made a better game, I'm going to play the better one. And honestly, if you can't compete, tough shit. You know, if PUBG was in a better position and wasn't as terribly optimized back then as it was, then I doubt Fortnite would have been able to grab as many players as it did. You know, it came along at a time when PUBG was running like absolute garbage. You know, it's running better now, certainly, but yeah, I don't mind things like fast follows, and I don't mind people making similar games because it means at the end of the day, what'll be left standing is probably the best one, and that's good. That's good for us. You know, it's the same thing as we're saying. I want something in the middle, right, of those two games. I don't want Fortnite or PUBG. I want something in the middle. Maybe that's Darwin Project, even though that now sounds completely different to all that stuff. But hey, isn't that cool? Because along comes that game, and that game sounds completely different and original.
Yeah, which is what we've been wanting. Is for people to be more creative with that genre.
Yeah, I'm quite excited for the Hunt Showdown, which is like the hundreds modded World War I weaponry fighting zombies in like marshland America. Like that looks really creative and really interesting.
Weird monster hunting and then escape with the trophy kind of thing. I don't know.
Also a battle royale set up around duos gameplay.
It's really strange.
Fun.
Yeah,
I mean, like it could be awful. It could easily be awful because the frame rate I've seen so far from the streams is just like, is that 10 FPS? What's it running at there? But you know, if they can,
I'm intrigued.
It could be cool.
Yeah. There's some interesting stuff coming out of here. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up what there is of the news, which is not a huge amount, and tell you if there's anything worthwhile coming out this week. Spoiler, a few things. Not too many, but if you have a console, there's one or two things you might be interested in. You're watching the Corpsal Podcast. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Co-optional Podcast, and straight into the news, of which there isn't a huge amount, but the one thing that is about to talk about is very interesting and quite a bold move, I think, in regards to Microsoft and Xbox. It was announced earlier today that the Xbox Game Pass will include, on launch, basically every one of Microsoft's major console exclusives, of which, as many jokes as you might make, they do actually have some of those. And we're talking about games like State of Decay 2, Crackdown 3, Sea of Thieves, the next Halo, Gears of War, and Forza will be available as part of the Xbox Game Pass subscription for the cost of your sub. So you don't have to spend $60 on it. For $10 a month, you get that, and you get it on launch day. All of their new stuff, which is aggressive, to say the least, when it comes to it's a pretty bold move on Microsoft's part.
Like,
yes.
Okay, a lot of thoughts. One, I don't see anything wrong with this. Awesome. Good for Microsoft for doing that. I think that's like cool. Two, how as a developer do you know if your game did well if most people play it on a platform like this? Three, does it reek of desperation to get people to play Xbox, or is that just a cynical side of me?
I would say
questions.
To me, it definitely does.
It's
definitely like a, please just try it. It's great, I swear.
And also, four, does that show that they lack confidence in these upcoming titles? Because they're like,
no,
paid
no.
download thing, you get it on the thing, and they're
No,
afraid
it
people won't
absolutely
play.
doesn't. Not for number 4. I'll for number 4, I would vehemently disagree that indicates that they lack confidence in those games. Those games will sell, but I think for the desperation thing, I don't think it's desperation. I think it is the kind of move you need when you're in last place, which they are.
Yeah.
They're being beaten
Yeah, for
solidly by Nintendo and by Sony, and there's no question about that. They are. Simple as that. They may have the most powerful console in the market right now. They do, but they don't have the user base and they don't have the games to really make that matter in all that many ways. So I've got an interesting perspective on this, and it comes from wrestling.
Wow.
Yes,
Hit us.
because, all right, let me hit you with this, because this is actually almost identical to the situation that WWE was in 3 years ago.
Oh, with their streaming service?
Yeah, down even to the price point. Okay, so those who, hell, even if you don't know what the fuck wrestling is, you do know the concept of a pay-per-view, right? Where the old school way of doing things was you had a big event, just like UFC has now, and you paid, it was between $49.99 or $59.99 for this thing. Expensive, big deal. Pay-per-view model sustained wrestling for a long time, very long time, in fact, and is still used by UFC, and Bellator, I think, uses it as well, and a few other things. And boxing matches, of course, use pay-per-view as a model. A few years ago, WWE did something really fucking crazy in the eyes of a lot of people. And they said, instead of selling WrestleMania for $60, we're going to sell everything for $9.99 a month on a network that's basically Netflix for wrestling, but with live capability, right?
Right.
Called the WWE Network. And people were like, what the fuck are you doing? That's insane. I mean, you've killed your pay-per-view market overnight, and you're then going to be relying entirely on this network to pay for all this shit. You're out of your minds. Huge risk, massive risk. The investors were scared as fuck. 3 years down the line, this service has, I think, about 1.5 million subscribers. And the model itself is working pretty well. And it's the way that most people watch pay-per-views. And I think from one of their earnings calls, they said they lose money on WrestleMania as a result of this, but they make money on all the minor pay-per-views because no one was really buying Backlash or fucking No Mercy. You know, people care about the Royal Rumble, they care about SummerSlam, they care about WrestleMania, right? So yeah, they're losing money on what they would have got from WrestleMania, but they're making it up over the rest of the year, right? And with a solid monthly invested subscriber base that can also be then monetized to go and buy t-shirts and engage in other shit because they make a lot of ancillary content and documentaries on that network. And also they're using it to drive people to go to shows as well. So this network idea sounded insane, but has worked out pretty well for them. This Game Pass, even down to the fucking price point, is identical. $9.99 a month. You're basically selling your WrestleMania, which is your Crackdown 3 or your Halo 6 or whatever, for $9.99 a month. And yeah, on a month where that would have been, you know, where that game came out, you're losing money. But Halo 6 doesn't come out every month. Like, they don't have a big, huge, giant release every month. On the months where that's not the case, you've got guys sitting around playing a library of old games that weren't selling anyway for $9.99 a month. And they're engaging in the multiplayer, they're using your online service, and more to the point, they're actually using your fucking platform, which obviously Microsoft are kind of desperate to have happen. So
yeah, it seems brilliant.
That's my perspective on it from a business standpoint. And yes, there is definitely a bit of desperation in it because they are in last place. They have to do something big. There's no doubt.
They have to do something. You're right.
Yeah, but that's why they're doing it.
It's like what, two AAA releases a year, and you get this plan for a year. You know, so
basically, yeah. If you were going to buy those, yeah.
So you get incredible access to those big games if you're going to buy them. Plus, there's inevitably going to be microtransactions in those games, or any of the games that you probably wouldn't have played anyway. So now they're increasing their chances of people partaking in the microtransaction models. They'll probably do pretty well on this if they can get people to adopt the system and market it properly. You know, that's the only thing they could really screw up on, is if people just don't know about it or something.
I mean, I don't know what the user base currently is for the Xbox. Obviously, they're in last place at the moment. How many Xbox Ones sold? Let's see if we can find that out, because then we can figure out how many people do you need to get on Game Pass to make some serious money. Estimates are, despite obviously being in last place, they've still sold 30 million Xbox Ones. So you've got a user base, pretty big one. You get a fraction of those to pay you $9.99 a month. Bear in mind, this is on top of the cost of Xbox Live. Yeah, this is a wholly separate service. It's a big library of games. It's a good one. I've got it on my Xbox just because I'm like, that's actually a lot of games. There's over 100 games on there. There's a bunch of old 360 ones that I really enjoy playing. You know, it's good value for money. You take, you know, a small portion of that user base and you get them onto Game Pass and you're having them pay on a monthly basis. That's still a good chunk of change, you know, $120 a year that you're getting out of them. And yeah, you might not be getting a sale on Halo 6, but you're making money in other places, like you said, microtransactions. And I have to wonder how many people really buy. How many exclusives do people buy a year? Because I hear people saying, well, oh God, if you did this with PlayStation, look at how many exclusives there are on PlayStation. It's amazing. You know, PlayStation's winning because there's 20 or 30 amazing exclusives every year. How many of those can people actually afford to buy? Because they're $60 a pop.
Yeah, I think the layman only buys like
only a handful
exclusives, maybe a year.
Yeah. So if you are talking about all of these, you know, let's say this is like 6 or 7 or 8 exclusives that maybe come out in 2018 through this, and your layman only buys a couple of them anyway, how much money are you really missing out on there?
Right.
One has to wonder.
Overall, you wind up being able to get people to use other services that are associated with your console. That's like kind of the goal here, right? Is to have it become something that you leave plugged in.
Yeah. And it was, we had a discussion, and this was about Monster Hunter in the Skype chat where we all hang around in. And we're like, what platform is everybody playing on? And it was like PlayStation. So that's kind of what made... that's kind of what made the decision, which is a little annoying because I'd prefer to play it on Xbox One X because it's a more powerful system, so it'll probably run a bit better. But if everyone else is going to play it on PlayStation, I've kind of got to play it on PlayStation, right? Because they're not cross-compatible. We can't play together across these systems. So what Xbox needs, of course, is more market share because that friend aspect, like what your friends are playing on, is a big deal when it comes to consoles.
Sure.
You know? Especially when the newest multiplayer game comes out, it's going to be very dependent on what your friends are going to play it on as to what you play it on. This is the kind of thing that could definitely push people in that direction, especially when you have like a big multiplayer game like Sea of Thieves or like the new Halo, the new Gears, that would have significant multiplayer in there as well. Crackdown 3 is designed for multiplayer, as I recall correctly. Those are, you really want to shove people in that direction, then this is the kind of thing you need to do. And honestly, it's good value for money. Like, you can mock Microsoft all you like about, how desperate they are. And it's fun to poke at the bear, especially when they were so arrogant at the start of this generation. But look at what they're offering now. The fact that
it's not a bad deal. It's
a good deal.
It's smart to get it. You'd be a bit
dumb not to.
Yeah, you'd be an idiot not to get it if you have an Xbox. Yeah.
Yeah, if there's games in there that you want and you can justify the cost, then you'd be a bit silly not to get it. And think about all the other stuff they've put in that works. The fact that I had Gears of War 4 on PC and I plug in my Xbox One X and it's just magically there because I happen to own it on PC because it's Play Anywhere. Because they've got that thing now between Windows 10 and between Xbox. So okay, that's kind of neat. Maybe I just wanted to play that game on the couch instead of in my office chair today. I actually have that option. They gave me a copy on the other system too. That's consumer friendly. That's a pretty good system. Yeah. The exclusives problem is an issue. Like, there's no doubt, but I have to wonder, and I'm interested in you guys' opinion on this. Do you think that because we're, pretty much all hardcore gamers, we're very focused on exclusives as being kind of a be-all, end-all? Because maybe we don't play stuff like FIFA, and we don't play things like Madden, and we don't play all of the cross-platform stuff as much. Or we're maybe thinking, oh, well, we want to play the exclusive that's on the PlayStation 4, want to play Last of Us 2 or whatever. We're really focused on that. But a lot of the general gaming audience, the more casual gaming audience, do they really care what platform Madden is on? Do they really care what platform FIFA is on? Is that actually, are exclusives as much of a system seller to that audience as we think they are? Because they definitely are to us, sure. Because we want to play those games and we can't play them anywhere else. But I have to wonder to the general populace if that's actually true or not.
I think the friend factor is far more important than the exclusive factor.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Almost
I think you might be right.
Everybody I talk to who plays on a console just says, oh, well, I play this because all my friends have Xbox or all my friends have PlayStation. And so that seems to be the number one driving factor for anything. But then you have to look at, okay, well, why are all that person's friends?
Why are they there?
Console? Is it the exclusives? I mean, Halo was sold the Xbox, the original
It
Xbox.
did, yeah,
so
yeah.
There's no arguing that it can't be, but in today's era, is it as powerful? Halo doesn't carry the same weight as it used to.
No.
But they do have a lot of other really good games, so it's hard to say.
I feel like it depends too. Like, games like Mario and Zelda can definitely sell a Switch, right?
Totally.
But I don't know that there have been very many exclusives that I can think of. Like, we know that the people who love Destiny really love Destiny. And in that situation, when
you
it
need a
came
PlayStation.
Out, all of them had the same console, so they could all play together and have their group that played Destiny, right? But I think that's a rare occurrence, honestly.
Well,
I don't know how much it is, and I also wonder, price point wise, oh god, this is going back so fucking long now. Which was the more expensive console on launch between the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One? Because I think it was the Xbox, wasn't it?
Yeah, because of the whole, remember the two
Connect?
press conferences right after the other?
Yeah.
And Xbox was like, this is how much it's going to be. And then PlayStation was like, well, then this is how much ours is going to be. And everybody was like,
PlayStation,
oh,
yeah, PlayStation beat it by 100, didn't it? And it was a lot of that was down to the fact they didn't have a fucking Connect with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a factor as well, especially in the early going. If $100 fucking difference is a big deal, especially when it comes to Christmas.
For sure.
It's probably one of those things where at the launch of the system, the exclusive factor is the most important aspect of the console. And then once you build up the player base, then the exclusives become far less important down the road. But yeah, it's hard to say at this point in time, now that the system's been out for as long as it has been, is doing this big exclusives thing for like a cheap cost going to make any difference, in how many people adopt the platform?
Not
or
sure.
is it only going to appeal to people who are already on the platform,
I think it all comes down to a like every generation, every console has the one game that make people buy it, right? And Switch has already had that with Zelda. Like people bought it for that.
Yeah.
And PlayStation 4 has plenty of it has enough market share where everyone just expects games to come out on it. Xbox One, I don't think has had its huge success yet, right?
No,
the reason
I don't think so.
all the other Xbox sold were things like, oh, well, there's this game called Halo, and everyone's talking about it, and everyone wants in, right?
Yeah.
The reason why, I bought the original PlayStation back in the day when I was a big Nintendo fan is because of Final Fantasy VII, and I was like, shit, I'm in. Let's do this. And then, and so I think there's not been a game on Xbox One that has really said this is why you need to get this console yet. And there have been a lot of good games. There's been a lot of games where people have been like, this is going to be hype. But there hasn't been the one game that literally as a gamer you said, fuck it, I need to buy this.
So good.
I have to buy this.
Yeah,
that's fair.
It's a strange situation for Microsoft as well, because even when that game does come out, it'll probably be also on PC, which is not a problem for Microsoft per se, because they're still selling the copy. It doesn't matter. We're in their ecosystem either with Windows 10 or with Xbox. They actually don't really care which at this point. But even then, you're not going to have a case where it's like, well, I've got to own an Xbox, because you could just own a PC to play Sea of Thieves or Crackdown 3 or whatever, unless they decide, which every now and again they do silly things like that, decide not to put it on PC. My Master Chief Collection never came to PC for some reason. The Halo 5 didn't come to PC, but the Forge mode did. And it's not very good. And it's a bit confusing in that respect as to what their strategy is. But it's a hell of a selling point. And I even wonder if we've now got to the point that we're so far into the generation that people are thinking if they don't own one of the consoles, maybe they might want to pick up the other one. And is there a justifiable reason to have it? And then when you've got both, then you start to think, well, which console am I going to buy this cross-platform game on? And if I was just playing on console, for a lot of the cross-platform games, I'd buy it on Xbox One X because it's a more powerful machine. So I wonder. It's very interesting.
So I finally found it. I've been looking for it. I finally found a website that lists all the console exclusives that sold consoles. And so if you go back and look at Xbox, the first Xbox had Halo, Star Wars, and Knights of the Old Republic, and then Fable. And then it has all these honorable mention things. But those three huge franchises, big games that sold that console. Then you go to Xbox 360, Gears of War, right? You have Crackdown, Mass Effect, Halo Reach. So it's a new thing, a few new things, but some old content there. And then when you look at Xbox One, you have to wonder yourself, okay, so what was the big seller there? Because they went back to the Halo pool. The Halo pool. They went back to Gears of War. They're like, remember all these things you used to love?
Yeah.
Here's some more stuff of that. And I don't think if you look at PlayStation or the way the games that they came out with, they're all sort of pushing the limits of what you can expect in gaming.
Quite a lot of new IP on PlayStation in particular. They've definitely been the new IP machine of this generation. Not even a question about that.
And I feel like Xbox, I don't know if they're misguided in it or if they look at Nintendo and think well, they can release 50 fucking Mario games. People keep buying that shit. But that's the reason to buy a Nintendo console is Zelda or Mario, because it's something it's an event, because they don't, the big ones when they come out are huge. and I don't know that Halo 6 can live up to that. It just does. I don't know that's possible.
No, because they have maybe like those franchises have lost a bit of steam. There's, like you said, Gears of War was a massive system seller, but Gears of War 4 was not, by the looks of it, or Halo 5 was not as much of one. It was a system seller, but it wasn't as much of a dominant system seller like the first ones were. And
especially since they ended the story technically. Like Halo 5 is like going to go see or like people making another Pirates of the Caribbean movie and being like, it's gonna sell just as much as the first ones did.
Yeah.
Like people are
They're
done.
going
The
to the
story
well
ended
too
for
many
most
times.
people. They don't give a shit.
Yeah. They've gone to the well too many times, whereas Sony is not going to the well like too many times. They bring out a lot of new IP. And yeah, for definitely, that's definitely a good thing. And yeah, sure, it's what obviously one of the reasons why the system's doing so well. But it's good that they're doing something to compete, because they certainly needed to. We were saying all of last year, it's like, what are Microsoft bringing out? They could be bringing out something, surely. But this is a good deal. I don't think there's any question about that. It's a silly deal to some extent. It's a very, very good deal if you want those games. If the games in that library are ones you're interested in, then it's a fucking incredible deal.
Well, they have PUBG now.
They do. They do have PUBG.
And Minecraft.
Yeah.
If you enjoy
Minecraft, God
masochism,
bless.
you
Finally.
can pick it up.
And the Minecrafts.
Yeah. PUBG, Minecraft.
Yeah.
I thought
doesn't run
Anthem
very
was
well,
at first, but it's not. It's also PlayStation.
No. I think EA would be a bit bonkers to make that an Xbox exclusive, considering how much they're spending on it. They would have to be insane. Well, there you go. Xbox Gamepass looks like it's going to be worth quite a lot in the not too distant future. Other than that, I don't think there's much on the news front, unless people really, really want to mention the rumor that John Cena may be Duke Nukem in a movie.
I did read about that.
I thought you might want to at least mention it.
I already put my movie pitch out there. Make it happen. Make it happen.
I'd watch it. Yeah, for sure. That's one of those movies where you're just like, that guy is that character, so we have to make it.
Right.
I don't know if they would let him say the things he needs to say in order to be a good Duke Nukem, although we have seen his bare naked ass on film. That is a real thing. So, who knows? Who knows what he's willing to do?
You said that with such confidence. It's true. We have seen his ass.
We have. Yeah, we have.
I haven't. I don't know if that's true. I can't.
That's because you can't see him, obviously.
Yeah, I can't. I have no evidence of that.
All right. Okay.
The goofs.
Indeed. It had to happen at some point. Okay. Releases. There are some coming out this week, and some look quite interesting, and many others look like they're a waste of your time. So we're going to try and avoid those ones if we can. Sounds like a plan to me. Let's begin. Jesse, I know you've wanted to... I believe you might even be streaming this one today.
Yeah, the minute we're
possibly
done here, I'm gonna start this bad boy up. Lost Sphere comes out today on Switch, PS4, and PC. It's part of Square Enix's collective and a bunch of indie stuff, and this is from the team that gave us I'm Setsuna, which was, for all of its faults of being stuck in a snowy wasteland, was still really entertaining and pretty fun.
Cute game, yeah.
Yeah, definitely gives you Chrono Trigger vibes. And so this one I'm very excited for. I played a little bit at E3, and I am ready. It's about a world slowly disappearing, and you as the heroes have to figure out why things are turning into white light. I have no clue. I have no clue what's gonna happen, but I'm really excited. It seems really, really fun. So I'm ready.
There you go. Dodger.
Yeah. This game looks up my alley. It's
What game?
You play Nostradamus.
The
Nostradamus
Four
and the
Horsemen.
Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. It's one of those games where it's like a bunch of puzzles, and there's also hide and find sort of stuff to it, but it's got beautiful art and all of that. So I was like, I'd play that.
And it's Nostradamus.
And
Fair
it's
enough.
Nostradamus.
Yeah.
All right. Jesse, tell me about your time at Porsche.
Yeah, so my time at Porsche is a game that there's a lot of games apparently coming out that are of that farming variety. I'm never a huge fan of them, but this game just looked very cute, and you are literally trying to make this town back into the once glorious town it was, and you grow stuff and you raise animals and you befriend the town inhabitants, the obvious tropes, but it just looks interesting, and I like the visual style of it. It's very cartoony, and
looks quite clean. I like
cute.
it.
And apparently there's combat where you fight monsters, so who knew?
Huh. Yeah, I'm more interested now in that than I was initially. That actually looks pretty neat, especially since a lot of it seems to be less farming and more building shit in your crazy grandpa's workshop or whatever. So
yeah,
I'm up on that one, and yeah, there is combat. Doesn't look too shabby even. Huh. Well, there you go. And on the farming front, Dodger.
Everybody's been mentioning this game if you're like super into farming games, but yeah, there's a game called Staxel that's like a voxel based farming game. It has co-op, so if you're somebody who has been waiting around for one of these games to have good co-op, maybe this is it. It's in early access currently, but yeah, people seem interested, so I want to try it out.
There's one for you. So the Iconoclast has apparently been in dev for something ridiculous like 10 freaking years, and it's a platformer, basically. It's an action platformer. The art for it is gorgeous. It's on like Shovel Knight levels of stuff going on there. It's getting quite a lot of attention and hype, I think, just simply because of how long it's taken to make, and it looks like there's an exceedingly large amount of polish going on with this one. And that's coming out on pretty much every platform, PC, PS4, and actually PC, PS4, and Vita, apparently. And I'm going to assume it's coming to Switch, because, I mean, a game like that is going to come to Switch at some point, surely, even if it's not today. But yeah, Iconoclasts. There seems to be quite a lot of excitement around that one. And that one is out right now.
Yep.
January 24th. This is Jesse's.
Yeah, there's actually two, even though it's listed on the 23rd. Tomorrow, Inpatient finally releases for PS4. That's
what is the Inpatient?
It's the prequel to Until Dawn. And
oh, really?
It takes place 60 years prior in the insane asylum, the Blackwood Sanatorium, before Until Dawn, which I have no idea how that relates, but it's a VR game. So it's a horror VR game. God help us all. That's
fuck that. Nope, fuck everything about that.
Yeah,
That one.
Thank you.
Not in a million years.
Then there's Zwei, which appears to look very much like a Secret of Mana style game, where there are three characters and they sort of run together and you can control the different parts of them.
Oh, there we go. That's the game.
I'm very interested in this. I truly hope that it turns out to be as exciting and like silly and fun and simple as I think so. Yeah, it looks very like it just has that Secret of Mana vibe. I'm down.
Well, there you go. Level Cap, you had mentioned Unstoppable Hamster, and I don't think that you mentioned it in a positive way.
Well, and also, I don't
shit.
think anybody addressed Puke Simulator either.
No, I'm sure they didn't.
We won't address
and we will
it.
not.
You're right.
Sure.
God. yeah, this is
we won't address it.
Look at all the effort they put into it. It's an entire city. It's a GTA-sized city where you can go around puking on people.
God damn it.
Yeah.
This is the shit we have to look through on the Steam list, folks. This is the stuff that we avoid showing you. There's a lot of it. Like, for instance, on January the 25th, I think there are at least 40 games, and we're only going to be mentioning a couple of them. Dodger, you had one on the list called Celeste, I believe.
Yeah, it's by the people who made Towerfall.
Aha.
It's like a narrative platformer game about a girl who's trying to find herself.
600 screens of hardcore platforming challenges. Fuck that in every way.
I look at the
That's
color
you.
palette on
That's
these
you.
fucking
That's
screenshots.
This is your game in a
it looks
nutshell.
So good. I'm so
not
excited.
touching it. No, that seems evil in every respect. But that is a game. That is a you game through and through. Yeah. Nope. Ain't going anywhere near that one.
January 26th is also basically entirely me. So, there's Tesla versus Lovecraft.
Yep, I've actually played that. It's good.
Is it?
Yep, it's fun if you like little sort of Robotron Smash TV style little arena shooter things. That's what that is by the guys that make
That's a
Crimson
top-down
Land.
twin stick for anybody who's curious.
Yep, it's I've played a couple of hours of this. I'm actually probably doing a video on this one tonight, and yeah, it's fun for that, you know, in good short bursts of slaughtering Lovecraftian stuff, and Nikolai Tesla gets his own mech and murders the shit out of things in it.
It happened.
Which is historically accurate and exactly how it should feel. It's legit. It's good for short bursts of awesome action. I am quite enamored with it.
Cool. Looks great.
There's also Dragon Ball Fighters.
Kind of a big deal.
And Monster Hunter World.
Yep, those are your big releases this week on January the 26th, which is an odd time for both of them to come out. Actually, a Friday for both of them instead of the Tuesday release.
That's the perfect time. You will not hear from me for 3 days. I will disappear.
Yeah, Monster Hunter World, PS4 and Xbox One. Yeah, I think I said we're all going to be on PS4 for that one by the looks of it.
Yeah.
Don't think there's anything else on that day. No, I wouldn't want to release on that day either, frankly. Jesus. You know, between those two games, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be like, I'll just wait one more day.
And those wondering about the PC version of Monster Hunter, they're delaying it by months and months, which is a very silly idea, I think, but is what it is. I think for that game, it's just going to have to be a console play for me, because I don't think I'd want to start the game again on PC 6 months after its console release. I think it's a bit silly.
Yeah.
It's a bit silly. All right. Moving on to January the 27th. Somebody tagged Aircraft Evolution.
Yeah, well, hey, I got to pick a game, right? I was looking through all these ones. This reminds me of my childhood, all right? Go through 4 temporary eras from the first time of World War I to futuristic flight. It's a side-scroller playing game.
Yeah,
this looks cool. It's got some physics built into it. So, like, when you're blowing up buildings, they physically fall down and stuff.
It's got leveling up and shit like
in
that.
The arcades, waiting to go see movies and stuff. So, I'd check this one out for sure.
Yes, it reminds me of a really old game that I used to play on the microcomputer I had when I was about 6 years old. It was like Time Fighter or something like that. This actually looks pretty neat. I'd probably play this, especially since there's the leveling ups going on. And I wonder if you can take like a jet fighter into World War I. That would be pretty legit. I'd play that.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but that'd be awesome. Yeah, taking down the airships and stuff.
That's a nice little arcade game. The Apartment. Is this another one of those silly psychological horror games? It is, isn't
Hell
it?
yes, it is.
Yep.
I love these kinds of games. You're investigating several murders, and you are exploring what could be real, what could be fake. Is it the same apartment? Are they all different? Like, just, anything can mess with your mind. I'm into. So I saw this and was like, go on.
Yeah, you can have them, as far as I'm concerned. You can have them.
Oh, I'll have them.
You also had Stage Fright.
Yeah, we talked about
this.
that.
We thought about this last week, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it isn't out yet, but I saw that and was like, yo, this actually seems like a really cool concept, that the more you're on stage and the more you do it, the more like crazy shit gets.
They try and fuck with you.
Ghosts and things. It looks bonkers. So
it's a rhythm game, isn't it? Yeah, it's a rhythm game that tries to psychologically fuck with you to make you screw up your rhythm.
How cool is that? Yeah.
Yeah, they combined rhythm game and Guitar Hero with horror, which, no, absolutely not. Not going anywhere near that. No, that is not my thing, but it's a cool idea. I'll give them that one. January the 28th, Dodger, you bring us
Okay, so I grabbed this game because I was like, what the fuck? When you click on it, the trailer is just like, Bankster!
Yeah.
Bankster! With no thumbnails.
No. There's not even a single screenshot. Well, yeah, that's a very interesting pick that we got there. What the fuck?
And
it is fully procedural.
Apparently, even the screenshots are fully procedural. They just haven't procedurally generated them.
Are we real bank? Oh, hold on, just like
not a real bank.
It's not a real bank. No.
Let me just take a minute. It says establish your first bank, expand your territory, right? Become a Federal Reserve. Got it. I understand. Bankster. Scroll down. Take over opponents. Oh, I'm sorry. There will be tough moral choices, secret societies, alien technology, interplanetary councils. What?
I don't believe this game's even
tell you
real.
What this game was about.
I couldn't. I think they just made it up. It's completely not real. And on January the 29th...
here's another game that I picked as just a what the fuck. It's called Weed in all caps, but
It's-
it's another match 3 anime titty
with
game.
anime titties in it. Great. Yeah,
I was
awesome.
like, why
fantastic.
is it called Weed in all caps?
I think we know exactly
clickbait
why.
on top of clickbait.
I think we know exactly why it is called that.
Incredible.
Wow.
So,
Yes.
there you
I mean, it got you to click. Yeah.
Blowing
It
my
did.
mind on that one, gotta say. And the only other release, I think, which, yeah, that's actually Tuesday next week, so we don't have to worry about that, would have been the new Dissidia, but that is not out as of yet. So I think we are about done there on releases. Yep. On PC, there's not really an awful lot, but as I said, if you're into the big indie games, Iconoclast is probably one of the biggest you can get, and JRPG-wise, you do have Lost Sphere, which we don't get that many JRPGs on PC, so it's nice to see that. And Dragon Ball FighterZ Z is hitting PC, which is surprising, but it is coming to PC nonetheless, so there you go.
I'm fighters.
And Monster Hunter World, well, you're going to have to wait a while for that, but you can get it on PS4 and Xbox One on January 26th. All right, cool. I think that really is about it. Thank you very much for watching the show, folks. Much appreciated. But before we go, we'd love to tell you what we're going to be doing for the rest of the week and what you can expect. So, LevelCap, thank you very much for spending all that time with us today. Much appreciated. We'd like to know what's coming up on your channel over the next week. What's going on?
Oh, yeah. More Battlefield 1 stuff. We're expecting the drop for the next 2 maps for the Turning Tides DLC in the very near future. So that's exciting. And then the final Apocalypse DLC will be upon us. So I'll be covering those 2 games. And if the NDA for Insurgency, the next Insurgency game, drops at
Sandstorm?
any point,
Yeah.
I will be talking about that. But until that, the NDA is can't say a word. So
I need to play that.
we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Insurgency was pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah, people keep yelling at me, Subnautica. That's already out. We know it's coming out of early access. We don't generally mention that kind of thing. You can get it right now. It's been early access for like 3 fucking years. Go play it if you want.
People apparently really like it. So
Yeah, they do.
go-
Yeah,
go
I
play it.
actually have not got around to playing it. I considered playing it in VR at some point, but apparently there are some very, very scary fish in that game, so maybe not.
Scary fish.
Scary fish. Yeah,
No.
that,
Fish are scary.
that might be a Jesse game. That'll be interesting. Scary, scary
I
fish.
don't think so.
Scary fish. Jesse, what's coming up on the channel this week? What's going on?
Yo, Dodger and I are playing Life is Strange. We're finishing it, and if you want to see the funniest goddamn thing in the world, I think it's episode 13, but it's the first of chapter 3. Dodger loses her mind, and I
Cool.
filmed it all, and I have the video footage of it in the episode. And she laughs so hard she not only cries, but then like dies. I think this is a ghost. This is not even it's like 15 minutes of her laughing
it took
at
me a second to be like, what? That didn't happen. And then oh.
you were in another you left your body for a minute. You
I
left your
did.
body and you just spasm laughed for a long time.
Oh my.
Yeah, you're
And
right.
we're gonna stream some of Lost Sphere today and more streams and stuff because now it's unified, baby. Jesse Cox on YouTube, Jesse Cox on Twitch, Jesse Cox on Twitter.
Finally, it has happened.
It happened.
After
So,
many years, Shabuzi is dead. Dead and
I know,
buried.
single tier for people not ever being able to figure out how to spell Shabuzi.
Yes. I couldn't.
Yeah, no one could. So
No,
there we go.
it's a terrible idea. Stuff coming up with the channel this week. I do have treatment this week, but I do also have videos that I've pre-prepared. Of course, you'll see the podcast VOD up if you happen to miss that. I'm going to, probably in the next hour or so, make a wee video on Tesla versus Lovecraft, because that's quite a bit of fun. And
I thought
the
at first you meant you were going to play the game on the Wii, and I was like, fascinating.
the Wii? What? Why? No. Why,
You were
that
gonna make a Wii video.
no, no.
Video.
Video.
No,
Video.
not Irish, it's Scottish. Anyway, the first episode of our revamped Snark Tank will be out. That is where myself and Jen look at the pictures of indie game devs and crush their hopes and dreams live. Well, actually via VOD, but in video form. We have over 400 games that got sent to our Steam curator, so we're very slowly making our way through them, looking to see if any of them look like they're worth their salt. Spoiler, most of them are not, and we're quite mean to them. So that will be coming up later this week. And God, I don't know if I'm going to have time for anything next week because I'm actually heading off to the my yearly excursion to the Metal Cruise in the middle of next week. But I think that, yes, there should be a co-optional podcast next week. In fact, I can tell you for a fact there will be, because we do have a very special guest coming onto the show next week who is premiering a rather fantastic show on gaming and mental health called Checkpoint. Going to be inviting Jennifer Hazel to the show, who is an actual real doctor and knows things.
Cool.
We'll be talking a little bit
I
about
got a lot
that.
of questions. I got this like thing on my butt, and I
No,
want to see if, like...
no. Go to
not that kind of doctor.
Well, she is a
I got
fully
this
qualified
thing,
medical
in my
doctor.
soul.
I'll tell you,
That kind
she's
of
a
doctor.
psychiatrist. That'll be perfect. She is a fully qualified psychiatrist.
I don't even know what's wrong with me, man.
They're going to be premiering the first episode of their Checkpoint series, and that's going to be premiering on the same day that she comes onto the podcast. She is an avid gamer. We'll be talking a little bit about a few mental health issues, of which we have plenty, and of course a lot of video games as well, so that should be cool. That'll be happening at the usual time of 3 p.m. Eastern. That is 8 p.m. GMT here on twitch.tv/TotalBiscuit on the Tuesday the 30th, before I go off on my annual excursion away from the internet for a few days and away from everybody else, which will be lovely. I'm very much looking forward to that. Thanks a lot for watching, folks, and we shall remind you that Jesse is going live very soon with Lost Sphere.
Yeah.
Are you? Yes. Are you going to do that right now? Because I could do the raid. I can do the raid thing if you want.
It's happening right now. We're
Is it
streaming
happening?
right now.
Can
People
we
are
do
gonna
it?
wonder what the hell's going on.
Can I do /raid Jesse Cox? Is that a command?
I mean, you can. It's
all right. I'm going to hit that. I'm going to type it. There we go. I've typed it. There is a raid thing going on. You know, I will cancel this raid. Thank you very much for watching, folks. We'll see you next time.
myself.
Goodbye.